Chapter 656. Clear Cloud Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Little guy, you fell into my hands, Howren's hands, and still want to use a secret technique to turn the tables. Dream on. When Ru Yin's demonic secret technique, 9-in white bone hand, was less than half a meter away from his head, Howren, who didn't seem to be affected at all, suddenly stopped forming seals with his 10 fingers. His expression was full of disdain and sarcasm. Along with the disdainful sarcasm, he bit the tip of the blood and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. The essence blood directly splashed onto the elixir in the cauldron and quickly merged with it. At the same time as the essence blood splashed, the 10 fingers that had stopped temporarily started forming seals again. Divide the elixir. Along with the violent shout, the seals that had just been formed quickly, after merging with the elixir, directly compressed it to the size of an apple and forcibly divided it into 9 elixirs that were exactly the same color and size. At this time, Ru Yin's demonic martial technique, 9-in white bone hand, had already touched his scalp. However, as the elixir in the cauldron was forcibly divided, the scarlet blood goo wrapped in the elixir was also beheaded and completely lost its life. The moment the scarlet blood goo died, Ru Yin, whose mind was controlled, immediately came to her senses. Seeing her bent left hand clasping Howren's head and feeling the power that was contained in the bent fingers, her expression couldn't help but change. As she immediately withdrew her left hand, Ru Yin also hurriedly apologized. Howren, I'm really sorry. I didn't know what was going on just now. Shaking his head, Howren swallowed the elixir that could help restore essence blood and comforted her. Senior Ru Yin, it's okay. Your soul was just controlled by the scarlet blood goo's sound wave secret technique. The one who really wanted to kill me wasn't you, but the scarlet blood goo. After hearing Howren's explanation, Ru Yin thought of the various strange abilities that the scarlet blood goo had and nodded. Then, she turned around and picked up the abandoned Ru Yun, temporarily leaving the cauldron. Condensing the elixir was the method to trap the scarlet blood goo. Dividing the elixir was the trump card to kill the scarlet blood goo. Now, whether it was condensing the elixir or dividing the elixir, it was finally completed smoothly. Next, all he needed to do was to continue using the furnace fire to nourish the pills and wait for the moment the pills were formed. Howren's decision to refine the poison pill was rather hasty, and the refining process consumed a lot of resources. Moreover, he had to bear the risk of losing his life. However, compared to the poison pill that was about to come out of the furnace, Howren felt that it was all worth it. This was because the medicinal pill that was currently being nurtured in the cauldron could truly represent the pinnacle of his alchemy and poison cultivation in his previous life. It was also one of the most important reasons why he was able to shake the profound sky continent in his previous life and become the Poison Hand's sword poison. The 3-soul blood fusing pill would be ranked 48th on the profound sky continent's 100 poison ranking in the future. It could instantly corrode the 3 souls of peak 9th grade martial saints, turning them into a mindless walking corpse. In his previous life, he had relied on a single 3-soul blood fusion pill to kill a peak 9th grade martial saint elder of the Yushu Temple, allowing him to escape from a life-threatening crisis. The only unfortunate thing was that the main ingredient needed to refine the 3-soul blood fusion pill, the scarlet blood parasite, was not only pathetically rare, but also fatal in the process of capturing it. Therefore, in his previous life, he had only refined it once, and in the end, only 1 pill was formed. Otherwise, he would not have taken the risk to enter the demon god's ancient tomb in search of an opportunity to break through to the martial saint realm. Time passed by minute. As 9 pills were separated from the cauldron, their color began to recede. When the poison gradually condensed into a single point, Howren, who had closed his eyes to recover his blood essence and strength, opened his eyes and slammed his left hand heavily on the cauldron. The pills are formed. As Howren slapped the pill furnace and roared, 3 sparkling and translucent medicinal pills flew out of the pill furnace, and 4 dimly glowing medicinal pills. With a wave of his sleeve, he directly placed the 7 pills that flew out of the cauldron into 2 pill bottles. First, he picked up the pill bottle that contained the 3 sparkling and translucent pills. After pouring out 1 pill, he carefully observed it and nodded his head in satisfaction. Then, he walked in front of Ruin and handed over the sparkling and translucent pills and the pill bottle in his hand. These 3 pills are called essence pills. They are 5th grade 7th grade pills. When we separated the scarlet blood parasite's corpse, we extracted the life force and potential essence that it had been absorbing from Senior Ru-Yun. Senior Ruin, after Senior Ru-Yun consumes it, she will recover in 3 minutes. After hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, Ru-Yin's face immediately revealed a look of surprise. Then, she directly reached out and took the essence pills and pill bottle that Yu Haoran handed to her. Then, she poured out the 2 essence pills from the pill bottle and fed them to Senior Ru-Yun. Taking advantage of the time when Ru-Yun was refining the essence pill, Yu Haoran poured out a dim pill and carefully observed it. Perhaps it was because refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill had increased his alchemy skills, or perhaps it was because the scarlet blood parasite in Ru-Yun's body had become more powerful and the poison it contained was more intense. This time, not only did he successfully refine 4 3 Souls blood fusion pills, but they were 5th grade 3rd grade pills. They could even threaten a quasi-martial honorable who had passed the first tribulation. When he thought of the Meng family's ancestor, who was a quasi-martial honorable who had passed the first tribulation, Yu Haoran suddenly had the impulse to test the 3 Souls blood fusion pills threat through him. Fortunately, Ru-Yun's words of thanks interrupted the impulse in his heart and temporarily extinguished the idea of testing the 3 Souls blood fusion pills threat. Thank you, young hero Yu. With the help of the 3 essence pills, not only had Ru-Yun's aura returned to normal, but her strength had also returned to the peak of the 4th rank 9th sage stage. Therefore, after getting rid of Ru-Yun's care, Ru-Yun directly stood up and knelt down to express his thanks. Yu Haoran quickly put away the 3 Souls blood fusion pills and reached out to support the kneeling Ru-Yun. Senior Ru-Yun, you're killing me by doing this. Young hero Yu, Ru-Yun is unable to repay your kindness by freeing me. In the future, as long as you give me an order, I will enter a mountain of swords or a sea of flames, I will enter a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. I will even serve you as a slave or servant. I will absolutely not frown. Faced with Yu Haoran's persuasion, Ru-Yun did not continue to kneel. However, she raised her left hand and swore an oath with the heavenly law. If I violate today's oath, the power of the law will backfire and my soul will never be able to reincarnate. Senior Ru-Yun, why are you doing this? The difference in strength made it impossible for Yu Haoran to stop Ru-Yun from swearing an oath with the heavenly law. In the end, he could only shake his head and smile bitterly. He did not know what to say. If it was not for Ru-Yun's selfless help in his previous life, he would have died in the pursuit when he was still a martial king. He would not have become the merciless swordsman Venerable whose name shook the Tianxian continent. Therefore, he took the initiative to help her open the pet cage and refine the pills that could restore her strength and potential. He was completely repaying the favor he owed her in his previous life. To put it bluntly, he had taken advantage of her saving his life just now. Chapter 657 Qingyun Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Haoran, the oath I made just now was of my own free will. Ru-Yun raised her head and looked at Yu Haoran. She had regained her peerless demeanor and was like a fairy in the clouds. Her eyes were filled with boundless tenderness as she spoke in a very gentle voice. Ru-Yun's current gentleness towards Yu Haoran made Qin Lingfei, who had already noticed her, immediately feel a huge threat. She quickly walked to Yu Haoran's side and reached out to hold his arm. Qin Lingfei's eyes were filled with hostility as she glared at Ru-Yun. She raised her head to look at Ryun and found that she was looking at her with a smile that was not a smile. She turned her head to look at her master and found that he had spread out his hands with a helpless expression. Faced with this sudden awkward situation, Yuhaoran really did not know what to say and did not know how to resolve it. For a moment, the entire Hidden Moon Pavilion was incomparably silent. Fortunately, the sound of hurried knocks on the door broke the silent atmosphere of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Yuhaoran could not help but let out a sigh of relief as he hurriedly said, "Come in. Ninth junior brother, something has happened." Huang Zonghua, who had pushed open the door and entered the Hidden Moon Pavilion, quickly said. However, when he saw Qin Lingfei, who was holding on to Yuhaoran's arm, a trace of embarrassment and awkwardness immediately appeared on his face. After all, when they first met, he had once mocked Qin Lingfei, saying that his ninth junior brother's sweetheart was not the princess of the Qin kingdom, but the Black Widow He Ryu of the Xiangshan bandit group. Now, when they met again and saw her intimate actions with Yuhaoran, how could he not feel awkward and uncomfortable? Fortunately, when he saw Feng Qinyun from the corner of his eyes, he immediately changed the target of his report. "Master, the princess's guards just heavily injured 3 attendants who wanted to leave the sect to carry out a mission." "Really?" Feng Qinyun asked in disbelief. Nodding his head, Huang Zonghua explained further. "The 3 attendants from the Achievement Hall are currently treating their injuries in the outer court disciples' room, but the situation is not optimistic." "Damn it!" After hearing Huang Zonghua's further explanation, Feng Qinyun felt angry, but at the same time, he had no idea what to do. In the beginning, he dared to treat Imperial Bodyguard Hu so harshly because he could use the mountain-protecting formation of the 100 Chi Gate to activate the sealed power of the Zither and prevent Imperial Bodyguard Hu from entering the 100 Chi Gate. However, the other party didn't want to enter the 100 Chi Gate. They only wanted to prevent the people of the 100 Chi Gate from leaving. This caused all of his defensive measures to lose their power. What's going on? Hearing Huang Zonghua's report and seeing his master's frown, Yuhaoran asked in confusion. "Haoran, it's my fault. I didn't expect." After hearing Yuhaoran's interrogation, Qin Lingfei, who was holding his arm tightly, hurriedly explained. "Humph." After hearing Qin Lingfei's explanation, Yuhaoran couldn't help but snort coldly. A trace of killing intent emerged in his heart. When he had just returned to the sect, because he couldn't deal with the threat of the Meng ancestor, he had no choice but to hand over Meng Xing in exchange for a moment of peace. This caused Yuhaoran to feel resentful and depressed. Now, he already had the means to kill a peak 9th grade martial saint and even a first tribulation quasi-martial saint. How could he choose to continue to swallow his anger? However, considering that the person blocking the sect was Qin Lingfei's personal bodyguard, he had to give her some face no matter what. Therefore, looking straight into Qin Lingfei's eyes, Yuhaoran tried his best to gently remind her. "Lingfei, since she is your personal bodyguard, then think of a way to make her leave. Haoran, don't worry. I will let Aunt Hu leave the 100 Chi Gate now and return to Xianyang City." After nodding, Qin Lingfei made a promise and immediately flew out of the Hidden Moon Pavilion, heading straight for the trial peak. "Senior Ryun, when I used the scarlet blood goose poison in your body to refine the pill, I consumed a lot of my energy. Therefore, I'm afraid that I will need some time to recover before I can continue to refine the condensing essence pill for you to recover your lost potential." After Qin Lingfei left, Yuhaoran, who didn't feel awkward anymore, gathered his courage and explained to Ryun. "Haoran, to be able to remove the threat of the scarlet blood goo in my body and recover the strength of a 4th grade martial saint, I am already satisfied." Facing Yuhaoran's calm explanation, Ryun still comforted him gently like water. "As for the condensing essence pill, you can refine it whenever you want. Whether it succeeds or not, I don't care. Senior Ryun, don't worry. I, Yuhaoran, am a man of my word. Since I promised to help you recover your lost potential, then I will definitely do it. Facing Ryun's gentle gaze, Howren suppressed his guilty conscience and promised. Afterwards, he didn't give Ryun a chance to express his gentleness and directly walked towards Feng Qingyun, making Ryun couldn't help but chuckle. At this time, Qin Lingfei, with a depressed face, suddenly returned to the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Walking in front of Qin Lingfei, Howren tried his best to maintain a gentle tone and asked, "Ling Fei, what's wrong? And who doesn't want to leave?" Qin Lingfei replied with a trace of sobbing. Slightly frowning, Howren asked with some confusion. "Ling Fei, although the bodyguard surnamed who is very strong, as the bodyguard that His Majesty arranged for you, she only has one mission, and that is to loyally protect your safety. Could it be that her wings have hardened now and she plans to leave your great Emperor Qin Empire?" Shaking her head, Qin Lingfei explained with some self-blame. "As an expert carefully cultivated by my imperial father, and who definitely wouldn't dare to betray the empire. The main reason is that I used to respect and indulge her too much, causing her to misunderstand her position. She mistakenly thought that she could meddle in and arrange my marriage and life." Afterwards, Qin Lingfei told him about Aunt Hu's contempt for him, as well as the conflict between him and Feng Qingyun. "Ling Fei, what do you think about Aunt Hu?" After listening to Qin Lingfei's explanation, especially the conflict between her and his master, the killing intent that he had been suppressing surged out again. However, before he decided to act, he needed to know Qin Lingfei's attitude. He didn't want to do anything that would make her sad. "I also don't know." Shaking her head, Qin Lingfei said with a painful expression. "If I kill her, will you hate me?" Howren didn't know the answer he was looking for, so he continued to pursue the matter. "Howren, don't be rash." Qin Lingfei misunderstood Howren's questioning and thought that he wanted to fight Aunt Hu to the death, so she immediately tried to persuade him. Aunt Hu isn't an ordinary expert. Although her cultivation is the same as Deputy Commander Qin's, both of them are at the peak of the 8th grade Martial Saint realm. The difference in strength between the two of them is like heaven and earth. If the two of them fight, Deputy Commander Qin probably won't be able to last more than 3 moves. Chapter 658. Qingyun Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. After hearing Qin Lingfei's reminder of Guard Hu's strength, Howren also felt a trace of shock. However, when he thought of the 3-soul blood fusion pill that he refined, which could ignore the strength of the power of law and directly corrode the opponent's soul, the shock that had just emerged in his heart immediately subsided, and he continued to ask, "Ling Fei, don't worry about whether or not I'm a match for Guard Hu. I need you to answer me now. If I kill Guard Hu, will you hate me?" "I won't." Closing her eyes, Qin Lingfei carefully considered for a moment before opening her eyes and replying. However, immediately after, a trace of sadness appeared on her face as she spoke. "However, if Aunt Hu dies in your hands, I will be very sad. Because Aunt Hu has always been making up for the motherly love I lost after losing my mother. I don't want anything to happen to her, and I don't want anything to happen to you either." After seeing Qin Lingfei fall into a dilemma, Howren held her hand with some heartache. His heart was also in a dilemma. If he used the 3-soul blood fusion pill, he was absolutely confident that he could turn Guard Hu into an idiot. However, the result would be that Qin Lingfei would be sad. However, if he allowed Guard Hu to block the sect's entrance, it would be a provocation to his dignity. It wouldn't be a solution in the long run. After thinking about it, Howren didn't know whether he should make a move or not for a moment. Ryun, who could understand Howren's dilemma, took the initiative to suggest after careful consideration, "Howren, why don't you let me drive her away?" "No." Shaking his head, Howren refused. Knowing the reason why Howren refused, Ryun explained in detail and solemnly vowed, "Howren, I have comprehended a special power of law. I can guarantee that no one will discover my identity." Still shaking his head and refusing, Yu Haoran's attitude was very clear as he said, "No." Yu Haoran's second refusal made Ru Yun very confused and couldn't help but ask, "Why?" "There's no reason. I just can't." Holding Qin Lingfei's hand, Yu Haoran couldn't help but shake it. He responded shamelessly. He didn't want Ruyun to help because he didn't want to owe Ruyun any more favors. In the future, he didn't want to have too much contact with Ruyun and Ruyun. This was because he knew that in his future battles, he would definitely have the most intense bloody conflict with the Snake Beauty's clan. He might even become mortal enemies with his own sisters. Making up for the favor he owed in his previous life in advance was also to ensure that he would be able to act without any worries in the future. In the face of Yu Haoran's shameless behavior, Ru Yun didn't know how to rebuke him. "Master, ninth junior brother, we've just received news that the 3 deacons who were severely injured have passed away due to their injuries." Just as Ru Yun was helpless in the face of Yu Haoran's shameless actions, a white sound transmission talisman directly flew towards Huang Zonghua. Huang Zonghua reached out and caught the sound transmission talisman. After reading the message in the sound transmission talisman, he said with a heavy expression. His left hand that was tightly holding Qin Lingfei suddenly exerted force again. Yu Haoran was somewhat unable to suppress the surging murderous intent in his body. However, when Qin Lingfei's other hand gently patted the back of his hand, he had no choice but to reluctantly suppress the murderous intent in his heart. However, just as Yu Haoran was about to suppress the murderous intent in his heart, another sound transmission talisman quickly flew into Huang Zonghua's hand. After reading the message in the second sound transmission talisman, Huang Zonghua's expression changed. He couldn't suppress his anger as he said to Yu Haoran, "Ninth junior brother, just now when 8th junior brother was planning to enter the depths of the mountain through the back path, he was discovered by that damned woman. She directly broke his limbs and threw him on the peak of the trial peak. Ah! If he was just a disciple of the 100 Qi Gate, Yu Haoran would only be able to suppress the murderous intent in his heart because of his anger. Under Qin Lingfei's gentle comforting, he was able to control his emotions. However, Lin Xian's serious injuries and broken limbs directly ignited the anger in his heart. He could no longer control his emotions and could no longer suppress the murderous intent in his body. Accompanied by the murderous intent that was about to solidify, Yu Haoran let out a furious roar and then made a murderous vow. "Damned bitch, how dare you hurt my 8th senior brother? I, Yu Haoran, will definitely cut off your limbs and make you into a human swine to comfort my 8th senior brother's heart." Accompanied by the furious vow, Yu Haoran forcibly shook off Qin Lingfei's hand and directly flew into the air, quickly flying towards the trial peak. When he arrived at the trial peak, he found that the disciples of the Qingyun faction were all gathered around a bluestone on the peak. On the flat bluestone on the peak, Lin Xian, who was covered in blood, was trying his best to endure the pain of his broken limbs while comforting Gongsun Yuding, who was crying. "Little junior sister, I'm really fine. I just need to rest for a while to recover. 8th senior brother, I'm sorry." In a flash, Yu Haoran appeared beside the bluestone and said guiltily. If he hadn't cared too much about Qin Lingfei's feelings and used the 3-soul blood fusion pill to deal with the guard surnamed Hu, his 8th senior brother wouldn't have suffered such painful injuries. "Ninth junior brother, what does this have to do with you?" Tightly clenching his teeth, Lin Xian pretended to be relaxed and criticized him. "8th senior brother, don't worry. Not only can I make you full of energy in the shortest time possible, but I will also capture the other person alive and hand him over to you to deal with personally." Yu Haoran took out a bone-forming pill from the storage ring and directly fed it into Lin Xian's mouth, and made a solemn vow. "Ninth junior brother, the other person's strength is too strong, you must." Seeing that Yu Haoran intended to fight with the other person, Lin Xian suddenly became anxious and tried to persuade him while enduring the pain. But when the bone-forming pill's medicinal power reconnected and fused the broken bones, broken meridians, and torn flesh, he was shocked speechless. 8th Senior Brother, a while ago, when He Xiong accompanied me to Xianying City of the Emperor Qin's kingdom, in order to protect me when I was refining pills, his pair of paws were directly shattered by the opponent. After realizing that Lin Xian had already felt the strange effects of the bone-forming pill, Yu Haoran turned and left while loudly introducing the bone-forming pill's nature-defying effects. Now, not only is He Xiong's pair of paws intact, but his restored paws are more flexible and his control of power is more precise. 8th Senior Brother, this is your luck to have me as your junior brother. Because I, your junior brother, can reach the level of omnipotence through the Tao of pills. While loudly introducing the nature-defying effects of the bone-forming pill, Yu Haoran looked up at a void about 100 meters away from the trial peak. Arrogant and ignorant. Chapter 659. 100 Qi Gate, at the peak of the trial peak. Whether I'm being arrogant and ignorant, or just speaking the truth, let this pill prove it. Yu Haoran directly took out a 3-soul blood fusion pill from his storage ring in response to Guard Hu's mockery. Then, he wrapped it in his Yuan Qi and controlled it with his soul force before flicking it towards the space where Guard Hu was hiding. You were able to discover where I was hiding. Although Yu Haoran had looked in the direction where she was hiding when he raised his head to speak, Guard Hu had mistakenly thought that it was just a coincidence. However, when Yu Haoran used his Yuan Qi and soul force to control the pill to accurately fly towards her hiding spot, Guard Hu asked in shock. Isn't it just using the power of the law of nothingness to hide in a crack in the void? How hard is it to discover your hiding spot? Yu Haoran replied with a disdainful attitude towards Guard Hu's surprised question. Actually, Yu Haoran was quite shocked that Guard Hu was able to control the power of the law of nothingness and raise her cultivation to the peak of the 8th grade martial saint. After all, he had personally witnessed the power of the law of nothingness in the inner valley of Death Valley. If not for the fact that the long-armed ape bloodline was too powerful, no one would have been able to easily kill the python that controlled the power of the law of nothingness. Of course, the reason why he was able to accurately find Guard Hu's hiding spot after using the power of the law of nothingness was not only because of Thaling's help, but also because of the python's blood essence. This was because Thaling had used the python's blood essence, which contained the power of the law of nothingness, to execute a tracking technique that allowed him to track down Guard Hu's hiding spot. Is that so? Yu Haoran's disdainful actions completely aroused Guard Hu's arrogance. She couldn't help but provoke him. How about we make a bet? Yu Haoran directly replied as he controlled the 3-soul blood fusion pill to stop in midair. What's the bet? What's the bet? The 3-soul blood fusion pill was indeed very powerful. It could be said that it could kill anything in its path. However, it had a fatal flaw, which was that it was limited by one's own strength and couldn't quickly and accurately reach the opponent's side. In his previous life, the reason why he was able to poison Yu Su Kong, a peak 9th grade martial saint, to death was because Yu Su Kong had carelessly stood beside him while he was lying on the ground, unable to move. Thus, he detonated the 3-soul blood fusion pill and poisoned the other party to death. This time, he used the pill because he considered the difference in strength between the two. He was able to make his opponent arrogant enough to ignore his threat and not seriously avoid the pill's attack. Therefore, when he heard Guard Hu's suggestion, Shukong's of the 3-soul blood pills attacked to Shukong. This was because it's very well, it's Shui's, I have 2 chances to change my position. If you can pinpoint my hiding spot accurately, then I will stand still and let you use any attack you want. How about that? Nodding his head, Yu Haoran suppressed the excitement in his heart and replied indifferently, Sure. 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, you can tell me where I'm hiding. After receiving Yu Haoran's approval, Guard Hu walked out of the void. After explaining the bet, he slowly merged back into the void. After 3 seconds, Yuhauran suddenly turned around and pointed to the west of the trial peak. 768 meters away from the trial peak, slightly southwest. Continue. Seeing that Yuhauran didn't even take a second to point out where he'd changed his position, Guard Hu said unhappily. After 3 seconds, Yuhauran suddenly turned around and pointed to where Guard Hu had been hiding. He said, "It's where you were hiding. You win." After being pointed out twice in a row where she'd used the law of nothingness, Guard Hu felt extremely depressed. She had no choice but to walk out from her hiding place and fulfill her bet. "You use whatever methods you have. If I move even half an inch, I'll kill myself in front of you." Although she'd lost the bet, Guard Hu didn't lose her pride as a powerhouse. She stood in the void and let Yuhauran attack her as he pleased. When Hui Yuhao had controlled the 3 souls blood fusion pill to approach Guard Hu, he'd already been close to her hiding place. Therefore, when Guard Hu allowed him to attack, Hui Yuhao's soul power controlled the poison pill to suddenly accelerate. The 3 souls blood fusion pill flew directly above Guard Hu's head and exploded under the control of Hui Yuhao's soul power. The exploding 3 soul blood fusion pill immediately turned into countless tiny scarlet blood goo and directly pounced on Guard Hu, who was standing in the air. Scarlet blood goo of the East Sea. Although she admired Yuhauran's alchemy skills, Guard Hu didn't think that he'd be able to hurt her with a mere pill of unknown origin. After all, according to her knowledge, alchemists had a few methods of using pills to attack. They were completely different from Yuhauran's current method of using soul power to control pills. However, when she heard an ear-piercing buzzing sound above her head, she raised her head and cried out in fear. Unfortunately, the countless scarlet blood goo that had formed after the explosion of the 3 souls blood fusion pill retained the scarlet blood goo's extreme speed over short distances. As long as one was within 3 meters of the explosion of the 3 souls blood fusion pill, even a quasi-martial saint who'd undergone 3 tribulations would find it difficult to escape the pursuit of the scarlet blood goo. "Yuhauran, spare me!" When the first scarlet blood goo pounced on Guard Hu and forcefully entered her body through her skin, Guard Hu, who knew the terrifying methods of the scarlet blood goo, finally let go of the arrogance in her heart and began to bitterly beg Yuhauran for mercy. "It's too late." Shaking his head, Yuhauran replied with a cold expression. Since you want me to die, then don't even think about living." Originally, she had mobilized all of her soul power to expel the scarlet blood goo that had entered her body. However, she was horrified to discover that the soul power she'd used to expel the scarlet blood goo were actually being devoured by the scarlet blood goo. Guard Hu knew that she would definitely die today. Resisting the scarlet blood goo's poison that was continuously being released by the scarlet blood goo, which had begun to corrode her consciousness, she only had one thought left in her mind. That was, even if she died, she would take Yuhauran down with her. Because her consciousness had been corroded by the scarlet blood goo's poison, she was unable to mobilize the power of the law of nothingness. Thus, Guard Hu used her peak 8th grade martial saint's strength to transform into a bolt of lightning and appear in front of Yuhauran. Chapter 660. 100 Chi Gate, the top of the trial peak. Facing the sudden attack of Bodyguard Hu, Yuhauran seemed to have forgotten to dodge and stood there foolishly. However, Bodyguard Hu, whose knowledge had been corroded by the scarlet blood goo, did not notice the disdain in Yuhauran's eyes as he was about to be killed. No! Unwilling to witness the life and death struggle between her beloved and her family, Qin Lingfei chose to hide in the hidden moon pavilion. However, due to her extreme worry, in the end, she could not help but use her divine sense to observe the situation. When she saw that auntie who wanted to drag Yuhauran down with her even if she had to die, and that she was even waving her fist towards Yuhauran's head, she could not help but shout out in grief. At the last moment, Qin Lingfei finally knew that Yu Haoran's weight in her heart was far more important than Aunt Hu. Although it was unfair to treat Aunt Hu like this, love was selfish and also the easiest way to make a woman stupid. Using all her strength, Qin Lingfei, who was crying in grief, rushed towards the trial peak. No! Just as Guard Hu's fist was about to land on Yu Haoran's head, Chu Zhongyu and the other Qinyan faction disciples, who were standing at the top of the mountain, all cried out in heart-wrenching voices. Gongsun Yuding, on the other hand, fell to the ground as if she had lost all hope. However, Feng Qinyun, who knew that his disciple acted cautiously, did not show a panicked appearance. He stared at Yu Haoran's head that had been smashed. Then, he was surprised to find that Yu Haoran's head had not been smashed and blood and brain matter did not splatter. He immediately knew that Yu Haoran must have used a secret method to avoid Bodyguard Hu's attack. As the saying goes, a cornered dog will jump over a wall. Could it be that I did not prepare for your counterattack before you died? Just as Bodyguard Hu mistakenly thought that he had successfully killed Yu Haoran and was about to laugh wildly with pride, from behind the blue stone that Lin Xian was lying on, came Yu Haoran's mocking voice. "Ninth junior brother, you're all right." The voice that suddenly came from behind gave Lin Xian a fright. However, when he realized that the person who spoke was Yu Haoran, who was heartbroken about being killed, he hurriedly asked in surprise. "Eighth senior brother, I'm fine," Yu Haoran said with a smile, signaling Lin Xian not to be nervous. However, at this moment, he was incomparably grateful for his foresight. This was because he had never thought that Guard Hu would be so powerful. He was actually able to display the strength of a peak 8th grade martial saint even when the scarlet blood parasite's poison corroded his soul. As a result, he discovered that he was unable to dodge the attack with his own strength. Luckily, when he was helping Lin Xian consume the bone-growing pill, he suddenly thought of having his first doppelganger hide behind the green rock in advance. This allowed him to use the method of merging his doppelganger in time to achieve the ability of short-distance teleportation. Thus, he was able to avoid the final fatal counterattack before Guard Hu died. If one were to observe carefully, they would discover that Yu Haoran, who was standing beside the green rock, was a lot stronger than before. Luckily, everyone present was shocked by what had just happened. No one noticed Yu Haoran's abnormality at this moment. "You actually didn't die." Seeing Yu Haoran standing beside the green rock, Guard Hu angrily roared with an expression of unwillingness. Afterwards, she used what little willpower she had left to mobilize all of her soul power and origin power to continue chasing after Yu Haoran. Unfortunately, her counterattack at the beginning was out of everyone's expectations, causing everyone to be unable to react. And this time, Feng Qinyun, who was already prepared, directly drew out the energy accumulated over hundreds of years by the 100 Qi Gates mountain protecting formation. Then, he poured it into his zither. His 10 fingers quickly plucked the zither's strings. One after another, talismans appeared in front of Guard Hu, preventing her from approaching Yu Haoran. "And Hu, I hate you!" Qin Lingfei, who was rushing over quickly, didn't notice Yu Haoran standing beside the green rock at first. She only had an incomparably sorrowful expression as she shouted at Guard Hu. "Princess!" Guard Hu couldn't help but turn her head to look at Qin Lingfei when she heard Qin Lingfei's sorrowful accusation. After seeing Qin Lingfei's sorrowful and tearful face, a trace of a familiar scene welled up in her heart. It was when Qin Lingfei was 9 years old. Because of the loss of an item left behind by her mother, she cried in grief and pain. At this moment, Guard Hu finally knew that she was wrong. Wrong, it wasn't that she looked down on Yu Haoran. Even now, she still looked down on him in her heart. Wrong, it was that she didn't truly understand Qin Lingfei's feelings towards Yu Haoran. She realized that Qin Lingfei, who had just experienced her first awakening of love, didn't just treat Yu Haoran as simple as liking him. If she had set aside the prejudice in her heart at the beginning and carefully observed and experienced the changes in Qin Lingfei's feelings, perhaps today's tragedy wouldn't have happened. However, it was all too late. She already felt the intense poison of the scarlet blood parasite completely corroding her spirit. At this moment, even if the pill god were to descend, he would be powerless. Using her last remaining trace of consciousness, Aunt Hu pleaded with Qin Lingfei. Your Highness, everything is this servant's fault. This servant was too selfish and arrogant and ignorant. I hope that your Highness can forgive this servant. Along with her last plea, Aunt Hu slowly closed her eyes and the aura on her body dissipated. Aunt Hu! Seeing Aunt Hu finally repent, Qin Lingfei cried out with incomparable grief. Then, she rushed towards Aunt Hu, who was standing there motionlessly. Don't go over. In a flash, he appeared beside Qin Lingfei. Yu Haoran hugged her tightly, indicating that she shouldn't go near guard Hu. Haoran, you're not dead. Suddenly being hugged by a strange man, Qin Lingfei instinctively wanted to attack. However, after hearing a familiar voice and feeling a familiar aura, she hurriedly looked up and finally asked in surprise. Even if the sky falls and the earth sinks, even if I'm trapped in the devil's den of hell, I, Yu Haoran, will crawl to see you even if I have to crawl. Yu Haoran reached out to wipe away the tears at the corner of her eyes and promised emotionally. Haoran, Aunt Hu, she? Although Yu Haoran's emotions made Qin Lingfei feel very moved, when she saw Aunt Hu standing there motionlessly, her surprise was immediately replaced by sadness. Amidst her sadness, she asked with some expectation. Ling Fei is already completely dead. Unless the heavenly law is willing to defy the heavens and change her fate, otherwise, even if the immortals and gods descend, they won't be able to bring her back to life. Facing Ling Fei's expectant gaze, Yu Haoran shook his head. While explaining guard Hu's final fate, he also explained the method he used just now. Because the pill I used just now is called the Three Souls Blood Fusing Pill. It was refined using the scarlet blood parasite that Senior Ruyun had cultivated for decades. Not to mention that she's only at the peak of the 8th grade martial saint realm, even an expert like the Emperor wouldn't be able to resist the poison of the Three Souls Blood Fusing Pill. Taking the initiative to introduce the effects of the Three Souls Blood Fusing Pill, Yu Haoran suddenly discovered that Qin Lei and the Imperial Guard were gradually approaching. He hoped to use Qin Lei and the Imperial Guard's mouths to warn those people in Xianyang City who despised and were hostile towards him to not easily provoke him. This was because he didn't want to destroy the unsteady relationship between him and Qin Lingfei because of guard Hu. At the same time, Ru Yun, who was sitting beside her, was also looking at her expectantly. Of course. Nodding, Yu Haoran confirmed. Soon after, he took out a jade slip and handed it over to her, saying, "Don't worry. However, Senior Ruin, if you want to refine the pill from the recent ancient times, not only do you need 108 precious spiritual herbs, but the grade of the pill is also very high. It has to be at the 9th rank of the 4th level. With my current level of alchemy, I am temporarily unable to refine it. 4th rank of the 9th rank pill." Hearing that the pill to remove the scarlet blood goo was actually at the 9th rank of the 4th rank, Ru Yin's originally expectant face instantly fell. She knew very well that not to mention Yu Haoran, whose level of alchemy was only at the Grandmaster level, even the Valley Master of the Medicine King Valley would not have much confidence in refining such a high-level pill. Moreover, the pill recipe from the recent ancient times was most likely in Yu Haoran's private collection. He could not possibly share it with other pills. Haoran, if we can gather 108 spiritual herbs in a short period of time, how many years do you think it will take to be able to refine the pill to remove the scarlet blood goo with your current level of talent and advancement in alchemy? Similar to the disheartened Ruin, Ru Yun, who had already removed the threat of the scarlet blood goo, was able to calmly consider the reality of the situation. She checked the jade slip that Yu Haoran had just handed over with the 108 spiritual herbs, and found that she could gather most of the spiritual herbs in the jade slip in a short period of time. Even for the most precious spiritual herbs, she was confident that she could find them within 1 to 2 years. Therefore, she needed to know when Yu Haoran intended to refine the pill. Closing her eyes, she carefully considered the situation of her future cultivation. Finally, she opened her eyes and gave an answer that shocked everyone present. The shortest is 3 years, the longest is 5 years. My level of alchemy will definitely be able to break through to the alchemy grandmaster level, and I have a 70% chance of refining that pill. Haoran, are you sure you said 3 to 5 years and not 30 to 50 years? The answer that Yu Haoran gave just now could be said to be arrogant. Even the number 1 alchemist in the Tianxian continent, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, took nearly 50 years to break through to the alchemy grandmaster level. Moreover, this was under the guidance of several alchemy grandmasters in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, as well as countless treasures for him to refine. But what about Yu Haoran? As a teacher who imparted knowledge, Feng Qingyun felt that he needed to remind his arrogant and ignorant disciple. Master, I am very certain that I will be able to break through to the alchemy grandmaster level in 3 to 5 years. Nodding, Yu Haoran got up and left the stone chair. Walking to the side of the stone pavilion, he looked in the northeast direction and said in a tone full of anticipation, "If I can successfully accept the inheritance of the Master Apothecary of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, perhaps in 3 to 5 years, my level of alchemy will be able to break through to the alchemy grandmaster level." Hearing Yu Haoran mention the inheritance of the Master Apothecary of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Feng Qingyun, who had a close relationship with the Valley of the Medicine Masters, could not help but feel shocked and said in an excited tone, "Haoran, you mean that the Valley of the Medicine Masters will allow you to go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters to accept the inheritance of the Master Apothecary?" Nodding, Yu Haoran explained, "When I was at the Qingyuan Guild Hall in Xianyang City, Grandmaster Xiang Wenshuan of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and I worked together to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill that could greatly increase one's mental state. At that time, he invited me to the Valley of the Medicine Masters to try to pass the test of the Master Apothecary and accept his inheritance." At this point, Yu Haoran returned to the stone table and said to Feng Qingyun, "So, Master, in 3 days, I plan to leave the 100 Qi Gate and make a trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters." "Of course you can." Nodding, Feng Qingyun was very much in favor of Yu Haoran going to the Valley of the Medicine Masters as soon as possible to try to accept the inheritance of the Master Apothecary. This was because the Master Apothecary was the only person in the Tianxian continent who had reached the peak of the alchemy grandmaster level in tens of thousands of years and had the qualifications to break through to the alchemy emperor level. If Yu Haoran could successfully accept the Master Apothecary's inheritance, not only would he be able to greatly increase his level of alchemy, but he would also gain the support of the entire Valley of the Medicine Masters. Chapter 662. Hidden Moon Pavilion, Wind Pavilion. Although he was in favor of Yu Haoran heading to the Valley of the Medicine Masters as soon as possible to receive the teachings of the Medicine Masters, Feng Qingyun quickly reminded him when he remembered that his good friend, Zhao Qing, was a pill master from the Valley of the Medicine Masters. "Haoran, when you go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, you have to be wary of a pill master by the name of Zhao Qing." "Master, could it be the pill Emperor Yunya Zhao Qing?" Hearing his master mention Zhao Qing of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, a middle-aged man with a similar temperament and style appeared in Yu Haoran's mind. "That's right, it's him," Feng Qingyun asked in surprise after nodding his head. "Haoran, Zhao Qing is a person who keeps a very low profile and is very particular about forbearance. Very few people have heard of his name. How did you know of him?" "I've heard Grand Master Xiang mention it before." Yu Haoran lied without blushing or his heart beating wildly. Actually, the reason he knew of Zhao Qing was because of Zhao Qing. In his previous life, a large part of the reason why he was able to reach the realm of mastery in poison was because of Zhao Qing. In his previous life, when he first went to the Valley of the Medicine Masters as a guest, the person in charge of receiving him was Zhao Qing. At that time, his pill mastery had just reached the realm of a pill master. The first impression that Zhao Qing gave people was that of a refined scholar who stood aloof from worldly affairs. His personality was very similar to his master's, so he had a good relationship with Zhao Qing and had a lot of private contact with him. However, after years of being hunted down, it was very difficult for him to trust a person so easily. Therefore, he secretly investigated and spied on Zhao Qing for a period of time. It was because of this that he discovered that Zhao Qing was actually an upright gentleman on the surface, but was actually a cunning and despicable person behind his back. The reason why Zhao Qing had approached him was not because he genuinely wanted to be friends with him, but because he had taken a fancy to his talent in alchemy. He planned to use a special Devil Dao secret art to extract and fuse his talent in alchemy. Faced with such a situation, how could Feng Qingyun, who did not care about the consequences of his actions, go along with Zhao Qing's wishes? In the end, he found a good opportunity to kill Zhao Qing with poison and obtain his secret book of poison mastery. It was also with the help of the Poison Dao secret tome that his Poison Dao cultivation had truly reached a higher level. In the future, he would even advance to the greater mastery stage. The only pity was that when he checked the other party's collection, he didn't find any demonic arts that could fuse with his innate talent. Therefore, his trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters this time, other than needing the assistance of the Valley's pill masters to refine the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir, as well as accepting the teachings of the Master Apothecary, his other goal was to find an opportunity to capture Zhao Qing alive and have the Thaling force him to reveal the secret demonic art that could fuse his innate talents. Haoran, Zhao Qing looks like an honest and upright person who likes to make friends with everyone. However, he is actually a vicious and despicable person. So, when you come into contact with him, you must be vigilant. Feng Qingyun reminded. Master, could it be that Zhao Qing was the one who poisoned you with the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder? As a refined scholar, Feng Qingyun was truly a person with no desires. To be able to make him call him a despicable person, it was enough to show that the other party's actions had reached a point where he could not tolerate. Combined with the fact that Zhao Qing was also proficient in poison, Yu Haoran immediately understood why his master was deliberately reminding him. In response, Feng Qingyun didn't say much, and Yu Haoran didn't ask any more questions. After all, regardless of whether or not his master was harmed, he would not let Zhao Qing off so easily. Master, I understand. Nodding, Yu Haoran indicated that he would be more vigilant. Then, he continued to speak to Ru Yin and Ru Yun. Senior Ru Yun, according to my original plan, after refining the Purple Heart Spiritual Recovery Elixir, I would continue to refine the Condensing Essence Elixir for you to recover your foundation. However, when I was helping you get rid of the Scarlet Blood Parasite, I used the Scarlet Blood Parasite to absorb the essence of your body over the years to refine the Essence Elixir, further enhancing your potential. At this moment, a level 4 first-grade Condensing Essence Elixir is probably not enough to completely restore your damaged foundation. So, I plan to go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters to further improve my pill skills before refining the Condensing Essence Elixir for you. Faced with Yu Haoran's slightly guilty explanation, Ru Yun waved her hand to indicate that she didn't mind. Haoran, it's fine. Whenever you feel confident, you can refine the elixir. I'm not in a hurry. Then, she couldn't help but frown, then lowered her head in silence for a while. Then, she raised her head to ask Yu Haoran to leave. Haoran, my sister and I have something very important to do, so I'm afraid we have to leave now. Ru Yun took out an exquisite jade pendant and placed it on the stone table in front of Yu Haoran. Haoran, this jade pendant is a communication jade pendant that I entrusted to the weapon refining master of the weapon refining sect to refine. The jade pendant contains a drop of my blood essence. If you encounter danger that you can't deal with, you can activate the blood essence in the jade pendant. It will be able to withstand a full blow from a martial honorable who has passed through 3 tribulations. Also, if you successfully refine the condensing essence elixir, or if you have the ability to refine the antidote for the red blood parasite, you can activate the blood essence in the jade pendant. This way, I can rush over in the shortest time possible. Okay. Yu Haoran nodded and waved his hand to put away the jade pendant on the stone table. Haoran, Peak Master Feng, Your Highness, we sisters will take our leave first. Just as Yu Haoran put away the jade pendant on the stone table, Ru Yun pulled Ru Yin to stand up, then bowed and said goodbye. We won't see you off. Goodbye. Be careful. Feng Qinyun, Qin Lingfei, and Yu Haoran also stood up to send them off. However, from the different tones in which they said goodbye, one could tell that they had different attitudes towards Ru Yin and her sisters. Feng Qinyun was cold, Qin Lingfei was on guard, and Yu Haoran was concerned. Sister, why did we suddenly leave Qinyun Peak? After leaving the 100 Qi Gate in the air, Ru Yin asked with a puzzled expression. Because trouble has come for us. Ru Yun, who had always been calm and collected in the Hidden Moon Pavilion, had a serious expression the moment they left the 100 Qi Gate. Trouble? What trouble? Ru Yin asked in confusion. Trouble from our clan. Could it be because of the red blood parasite? Ru Yin guessed with a frightened expression. That's right. Ru Yun nodded and explained in a serious tone. Sister, I'm sure you've already guessed that the red blood parasite was inexplicably planted in us by someone in the royal family. Now that Haoran has helped me get rid of the threat of the red blood parasite, those people in the royal family must have sensed it. They will definitely send a quasi-martial honorable expert to investigate. Ru Yun turned to look at Qinyun Peak and said in a decisive tone. I can't lead the experts of the royal family here, and I can't let the royal family know that Yu Haoran has the ability to get rid of the red blood parasite. She then turned back and looked straight into Ru Yin's eyes. Chapter 663. 100 Qi Gate, outside of the training peak. So, a ball of white light slowly emerged from the jade hand that Ru Yun had been keeping behind her back. Then, taking advantage of the time when Ru Yin was distracted by her words, she suddenly imprinted it on her chest. Ru Yun, you? Ru Yin asked in confusion as she felt her soul and Yuan Qi slowly drain away. Sister, I'm sorry, you have to be unconscious for a while. This is the only way to temporarily cut off the connection between the scarlet blood goo and the royal family. This is also the only way I can use sneak attacks to kill the experts sent by the royal family. Ru Yun reached out to hold the unconscious Ru Yin, whose soul and Yuan Qi were sealed. She identified the direction and disappeared in a flash of lightning. After Ru Yin and Ru Yun left the Hidden Moon Pavilion, the 3 of them sat down again. Yu Haoran held Ling Fei's jade hand and said to Feng Qinyun Peak, Master, in less than 20 days, it will be the day of my engagement with Ling Fei. According to the agreement I made with the Emperor, the location of the engagement will be in the Imperial Palace of Xianyang City. I hope Master can bring a few seniors and juniors to Xianyang City in advance. It's my disciple's engagement ceremony. As her master, of course I will be there in advance. Feng Qinyun agreed with a smile. But at this time, he was very depressed and helpless. If Yu Haoran was only engaged to a female disciple of the same sect, even if it was the daughter of the sect leader, with Feng Qinyun's family background and Qinyun Peak's status in the sect, there would be no problem in preparing a betrothal gift. But Qin Lingfei was still the princess of the Emperor Qin's kingdom. The great Emperor Qin's kingdom was a powerful force that did not lose to the top sex. Therefore, the betrothal gift of the groom during the engagement would be a very big test for him. Thinking of this, Feng Qinyun could not sit still. He had to discuss with his eldest disciple what kind of betrothal gift to prepare in order to not embarrass Yu Haoran. Haoran, ever since the princess came to Qinyun Peak, you haven't spent time with her. While you're at Medicine King Valley, you should spend some time with her. Feng Qinyun hurriedly left the Hidden Moon Pavilion after giving his instructions. Walk with me, Yu Haoran suggested as he held Qin Lingfei's lily-white hand tightly. Okay. Qin Lingfei lowered her head gently and agreed. In the following 2 days, Yu Haoran accompanied Qin Lingfei to explore the mountains he was familiar with during the day. He also told her about his encounters on these mountains. At night, they would discuss what they had comprehended in their cultivation and make up for their shortcomings through comprehension. It was through the discussion about cultivation that Qin Lingfei realized that auntie who was really wrong. Not only did Yu Haoran's talent in alchemy far surpass that of a monstrous genius, his talent in martial arts also far surpassed all the monstrous geniuses she was familiar with. At the same time, after 2 days and 2 nights of contact, Qin Lingfei knew that her love for Yu Haoran, which was originally hazy, had now become unforgettable. However, what Yu Haoran didn't know was that just as he was taking Qin Lingfei to admire the scenery of the 100 Qi Gate, the entire sect had already set off a stormy wave of commotion. Although the people of the 100 Qi Gate didn't know the extent to which Qin Lingfei was favored in the Emperor Qin kingdom, the identity and status of the princess was enough to shock them speechless. What's more, these 2 days, they had also observed Qin Lingfei from afar. Although her face was covered by a silk veil and they couldn't see her true appearance, from the shape of her face, they could basically guess that she had a peerless appearance. Moreover, Qin Lingfei, who had received the strictest education from the nobles since she was young, constantly exuded a noble aura that increased her endless charm. Therefore, in the entire 100 Qi Gate, from the 100-year-old elders to the new odd-job disciples, there wasn't a single person who didn't envy Yu Haoran's luck. However, to Kong Yong'e and Lin Mengyao, besides envy and jealousy, there was also a very complicated sadness and unwillingness. In front of the Achievement Hall, looking at Clear Cloud Peak from afar, the image of Yu Haoran kissing and hugging Qin Lingfei appeared in her mind. Tears instantly wet the silk on Kong Yong'e's face. Jingya, forget it. Give up. Feeling the sadness on his disciple's body, the new Achievement Hall master softly advised. The two of you aren't suitable for each other. If you force yourself to pursue him, you'll only hurt yourself in the end. Hall Master, I can't forget, I can't let go, Kong Yong'e said in a hoarse voice as she shook her head. Jingya, Yu Haoran is a stranded true dragon. The small 100 Qi Gate definitely won't be able to keep him. In the future, the places he will fight will definitely be the vast and boundless central domain. You won't be able to keep up with his pace. Why don't you choose to let go? The Achievement Hall Master continued to advise. This way you won't cause Yu Haoran to worry about his heart, and you'll also be able to answer to yourself. After hearing the Hall Master's advice, Kong Yong'e continued to shake her head. After taking a deep breath, she suppressed the sadness in her heart and said, No matter where he goes in the future, no matter how great his future achievements are, as long as I can watch him from afar, I'll be perfectly satisfied. Then, Kong Yong'e directly turned around and returned to the Achievement Hall. Looking at Kong Yong'e, who still refused to give up on Yu Haoran, a cold light flashed in the Achievement Hall Master's eyes. He turned his head and looked in the direction of Clear Cloud Peak. The cold light in his eyes was replaced by unwillingness. Sunset Peak. Lin Mengyao stood alone on the peak. Although she didn't reveal her true feelings like Kong Yong'e, her depressed mood made her look very pitiful. However, after all, they had different backgrounds and had different personalities. Staring at Clear Cloud Peak, Lin Mengyao softly muttered to herself. Yu Haoran, just you wait. When I, Lin Mengyao, truly awaken the divine bloodline of the Hua clan and obtain the recognition of the Hua clan, I'll definitely bring a ceremony that won't lose out to the princesses. At that time, I'll see how that surnamed Qin will use his status to suppress me. I'll see how Yu Haoran make a new choice. 3 days later, at the bottom of the 100 Qi Gate Trial Peak. Ling Fei, you've been out for a long time. Hurry back. Yu Haoran gently urged as he helped Qin Ling Fei tidy up the messy hair on her forehead. Haoran, can't I accompany you to the Medicine King Valley? Qin Ling Fei reluctantly requested. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran decisively refused. No. If you continue to be with me, I'm afraid that the Emperor and Steward Jiang will inform Deputy Commander Qin Lei and directly take you back to Xianyang City. After all, in half a month, you and I will hold the engagement ceremony. If you, as the fiancé, don't prepare in advance, wouldn't you be embarrassing the Emperor? Okay. Knowing that her request was a bit too much, Qin Ling Fei nodded in agreement while gently reminding him. Haoran, although the Medicine King Valley pays attention to being aloof from worldly affairs, where there are people, there will be dispute. You must pay attention to your safety. I know. Nodding, Yu Haoran gently said. Wait for me in Xianyang City. Okay. Nodding, Qin Ling Fei turned and walked towards Qin Lei. Prince Consort, I'll take my leave. Signaling the Imperial Guards to surround Qin Ling Fei, Qin Lei clasped his hands and bid farewell. Chapter 664. I'm going back to my hometown in the countryside to celebrate the 15th of the month. Due to the grid in my hometown, tomorrow's 5 chapters will have to be pushed back to the afternoon. Please forgive me, brothers and sisters. 100 Qi Gate, outside the Trial Peak. After watching Qin Lei and the Imperial Guards protect Qin Ling Fei as they flew away from the 100 Qi Gate, Yu Haoran withdrew his gaze and turned to speak to his master and eldest senior brother, who had also come to send him off. Master, eldest senior brother, I will enter the depths of the mountain range and find He Xiong, who is breaking through to the 4th rank Saint Realm. After that, I will head straight to the Medicine King Valley. Half a month later, we will meet at the Qingyuan Guild Hall in Xianyang City. All right, be careful on the road. Feng Qingyun exhorted as he nodded. 9th Junior Brother, take advantage of this trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters and help us refine some elixirs to increase our cultivation and strength, Chu Zhongyu said jokingly. Perhaps it was because of the bloody battle with the Qingqing sect that Chu Zhongyu's blood had been stimulated. Now, he rarely interfered with the matters of the sect and used more time to increase his cultivation and strength. At this time, he had successfully broken through to the 2nd grade Martial King. Eldest senior brother, don't worry. When we meet in Xianyang City, I will give you a gift that will make you go crazy. Yu Haoran promised. Then, he turned and soared into the sky. Just as he was about to head straight for the depths of the mountain range, he unexpectedly sensed a familiar person standing at the peak of the Trial Peak. Turning his head, Yu Haoran's originally happy mood instantly became heavy. Because standing at the peak of the Trial Peak, the delicate and pitiful person, was Kong Yong'a, who he had not seen since they parted ways in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Junior Sister Jiang, I'm sorry. I'm not a good match for you. If we force ourselves to be together, it will only harm you. After talking to himself, Yu Haoran steeled his heart and turned around. Then, he sped up and flew into the depths of the mountain range. Yu Shixiang, junior sister, doesn't expect you to marry me. In the future, as long as I can look at you from afar, even if it's just your back, junior sister will be satisfied. Looking at Yu Haoran, who was quickly flying into the depths of the mountain range, Kong Yong'a wiped away the tears that fell from the corners of her eyes. Then, she put on the silk gauze and comforted herself. Following the route left by the black bear, Yu Haoran soon arrived at the foot of a mountain that was about 1,000 meters high and filled with spiritual energy. After carefully observing the mountain in front of him, he finally found a cave that was about 20 meters high and 15 to 16 meters wide on the east side of the mountain. Appearing in front of the cave in a flash, Yuhauran shouted towards the cave, "Black Bear, I, Yuhauran, am here." After waiting for a full 3 seconds, there was no response from the cave. This made Yuhauran frown involuntarily. Although the time taken for a strange beast to break through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm was much longer than that of a human practitioner, nearly 3 days and 4 nights was enough for the Black Bear to successfully break through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm and consolidate its realm after breaking through. This was also the reason why he had to enter the depths of the mountain range to find the Black Bear. After all, he had lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life. He knew that the Valley of the Medicine Masters was far from being as aloof from worldly affairs as the rumors made it out to be. The dangers that surged in the dark were not at all inferior to the conflicts between the factions of the 100 Chi Gate. Therefore, he had to bring the Black Bear that had broken through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm with him to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This way, not only would it be able to protect him at all times, it would also be able to help him secretly deal with things that were inconvenient for him to do personally. Seeing that there was no response from the cave, Yuhauran spread out his divine consciousness and began to use it to check the situation inside the cave. After his divine consciousness entered the cave, Yuhauran discovered that the interior of the cave was very cozy and the environment was very clean. This made him suspicious. This was because ever since the Black Bear had followed him to the Qingyun Peak, it had always liked to stay in the corner of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Other than the fact that it liked a dark environment, it was also because it was not very particular about hygiene and was afraid of dirty hygiene, which would make him unhappy. In other words, the clean cave in front of him was definitely not cleaned by the Black Bear. Its partner had long been captured by the 6-tailed white fox and sold to the elders of the Xiandao school. Then, who cleaned the cave in front of him? Or it could be said that ever since the Black Bear had followed him back to the Qingyun Peak, this cave had already been occupied by other strange beasts. Thinking of this, Yuhauran withdrew his divine consciousness and flashed into the cave. His nose twitched slightly. He knew that this cave still belonged to the Black Bear, and that the Black Bear had stayed in the cave an hour ago. At the same time, there was the smell of another strange beast in the cave. Moreover, this smell was somewhat familiar to him, but he could not recall it at the moment. Thawing. He wanted to know what had happened after the Black Bear returned to the depths of the mountain range. He needed to find the Black Bear. Helpless, Yuhauran could only ask for help from Thawing, who was teaching his second clone about formations. "What's wrong?" Thawing asked after returning to the top floor of the Victor after instructing Yuhauran's second clone to comprehend the formations he had just learned by himself. "Please use your divine consciousness and help me find the Black Bear," Yuhauran requested. After hearing Yuhauran's request, Thawing immediately released his peak martial honorable's divine consciousness. However, just as his divine consciousness expanded to less than 10,000 meters, he discovered the Black Bear's figure returning to the cave. However, what really surprised Thawing was not the fact that the Black Bear had successfully broken through to the 4th-rank sacred realm, but the little white fox that was following it. "Thawing, what's wrong?" Yuhauran hurriedly asked after hearing Thawing's surprised voice. "Nothing, the Black Bear is returning to the cave." Thawing did not reveal the little white fox beside the Black Bear, and casually explained. "That's good." Hearing that the Black Bear was about to return to the cave, Yuhauran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This meant that it did not have any objections. After exiting the cave, he found a green rock not far from the cave. He immediately sat cross-legged on the green rock and investigated while waiting for the Black Bear to return. The wait was not long, only about 5 minutes. Accompanied by hearty laughter, 2 identical black bears appeared in Yuhauran's line of sight. After all, they had been following him for a period of time and had consumed many pills that he had refined. Therefore, Yuhauran quickly identified the black bear on the left. It was the black bear that had been following him all this time. Jumping off the green rock, Yuhauran greeted it with a smile. "Black bear. Master, why are you here?" Hearing the familiar greeting, the black bear on the left hurriedly raised its head to take a look. When it realized that the person who greeted it was Yuhauran, it hurriedly shouted in surprise. Then, it turned its head to introduce the black bear beside it, that looked exactly the same. "Bai Tong, this is the master that I mentioned to you before. I was able to break through to the 4th rank sacred realm in such a short period of time because of master's great help." Following the black bear to Yuhauran, the black bear called Qing Tong greeted him with a smile. "Hello, human martial arts genius. Hello, I didn't expect the honest black bear to find a..." Chapter 665. In the Depths of the Mountain Range. You're a charming fox." The familiar scent awakened his long-sealed memories. Yuhauran finally recalled the true origin of the familiar scent in the cave. While quickly sealing off his sense of smell, Yuhauran pointed out the other party's origins in fear as he quickly retreated. Hearing Yuhauran call out charming fox, the black bear mutated beast that looked exactly like a black bear quickly turned into a small white fox about 5 to 6 centimeters tall and 10 centimeters long. "Who are you?" Bai Tong asked coldly as she stared at the retreating Yuhauran with her scarlet eyes. "How did you see through my identity at a glance? And how did you know about the charming fox tribe?" "A charming fox with the mutated bloodline of the ancient 9-tailed celestial fox. It has a charm that can make countless people fall for it. The name of the charming fox has been passed down since ancient times. It's not surprising that it could recognize you." After retreating to a safe distance, Yuhauran finally calmed down the panic in his heart. While introducing the origin of the little white fox in front of him, he gave the black bear a look, telling it to quickly move away from Bai Tong. Unfortunately, in the face of Yuhauran's meaningful glance, Black Bear turned a blind eye and only looked at Bai Tong with infatuation. "Speak, who exactly are you?" Seeing that Yuhauran not only recognized her origins, but also knew about the charming fox, Bai Tong continued to ask as a pink glow appeared on her body. "Yuhauran, the vice-sect leader of the sect that guards this mountain range." After seeing the pink glow on Bai Tong's body, Yuhauran knew that the white fox wanted to kill him. Thinking of the terrifying methods the charming fox tribe had, Yuhauran took a deep breath and followed the other party's question as he introduced himself. He then asked with a puzzled expression, "Bai Tong, from what I know, the charming fox that inherited the mutated bloodline of the ancient 9-tailed celestial fox is the most arrogant creature in the world. It won't approach anyone who doesn't have the bloodline of the ancient emperor. I really don't understand why you would use your charm to confuse the black bear and then take the opportunity to get close to it. Yuhauran, do you know the origin of the black bear bloodline?" Not only did he know the background of the charming fox, he also knew the temperament of the charming fox. Towards the young man in front of him, Bai Tong suddenly had a very strong interest. Therefore, it wanted to know more about Yuhauran, but it didn't know it was very dangerous. "Of course I do. It's a mutated beast that possesses the bloodline of the ancient Sea of Death's bear emperor. It also has the potential to become a rank 2 martial emperor." Yuhauran was also interested in the sudden appearance of the bewitching fox that had disappeared for tens of thousands of years. He also wanted to understand the reason for her sudden appearance. Therefore, he explained everything he knew about the black bear in full detail. "Then do you know the origin of the ancient Dead Sea Bear Emperor?" Bai Tong continued to ask. Shaking his head, Yuhauran indicated that he did not know. Actually, it was all thanks to the Thaling in his mind that he knew about the inheritance of the black bear bloodline. As for the ancestor of the black bear bloodline, even the Thaling didn't know much about it. How could he possibly know about it? The Bear Emperor was one of the 3 overlords of the Sea of Death in ancient times. His strength and status were not inferior to the king of the 9 great ancient divine beasts. He once ruled the entire Black Sea for tens of millions of years. At this point, Bai Tong pointed at the black bear and said, "This black bear has the bloodline of the bear bloodline. The black bear in front of us has inherited 50% of the Bear Emperor's bloodline. In the future, it has a 30% chance of reproducing the Bear Emperor's glory." From Bai Tong's explanation, Yu Haoran finally understood why Bai Tong had his eyes on the black bear. At the same time, he also didn't expect that the seemingly ordinary black bear would have such a thick bloodline of the ancient Bear Emperor. However, although Bai Tong's explanation seemed reasonable, it still made Yu Haoran suspicious. "Bai Tong, how long have you been in the world?" "9 days. Bai Tong replied with a puzzled expression. "Where did you come into the world?" Yu Haoran's eyes lit up. He already had an answer in his heart and continued to ask. "The eternal ancient forest." Bai Tong continued to be puzzled and answered. "The eternal ancient forest?" He frowned slightly, not sure where the forest Bai Tong mentioned was. "It's the primeval forest in the depths of this mountain range." Seeing Yu Haoran frown slightly, Bai Tong knew that the name he mentioned was too ancient. This was why the young man in front of him hadn't heard much about it. He pointed at the depths of the mountain range and said, "Bai Tong, since you came into the world, you must have never left this mountain range, right?" Yu Haoran nodded and asked with a smile. "What do you mean?" Bai Tong asked even more suspiciously. "Bai Tong, since the end of ancient times and the rebirth of life, the true masters of this continent are no longer the strange beasts of ancient times. They are human warriors." At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at the black bear and said, "Bai Tong, according to what I know, the charming fox is good at seduction technique. There is a technique called heart to heart. Through the secret technique of heart to heart, you can see the other party's life experiences." "That's right." As he nodded in response to Yu Haoran, Bai Tong's heart was filled with shock. Not only did he know the charming fox's history, personality and habits, he even knew the secret techniques that the charming fox was good at. Bai Tong's interest in this young man in front of him had far surpassed the black bear. "Then you can use the secret technique of heart to heart to see the black bear's life experiences. Then you can understand the situation of the world," Yu Haoran suggested with a smile. After hearing Yu Haoran's suggestion, Bai Tong turned his head to look at the black bear. A trace of purple light appeared in his scarlet fox eyes. When the purple light shot into the black bear's eyes, scenes of the black bear's life, its growth, and its cultivation appeared in Bai Tong's mind one after another. Taking this opportunity, Yu Haoran sat down cross-legged to show that he had no ill intentions. He also used his consciousness to ask Thaling for help. "Thaling, do you know anything about this charming fox? Do you know what its weakness is?" Thaling did not immediately reply to Yu Haoran's request for help. Like Bai Tong, he was eager to know how Yu Haoran knew about the charming fox clan that had been extinct for hundreds of years. "Yu Haoran, how do you know about the charming fox?" "In my previous life, I once entered an ancient tomb. It was an ancient tomb left behind from ancient times. The owner of the ancient tomb was a charming fox that possessed the mutated bloodline of the 9 ancient foxes. Since Yu Haoran was connected to the tower spirit, there was no need for him to hide his secrets. He told the tower spirit everything he knew about the origins of the charming fox. In that ancient tomb, there was a jade slip left behind. The jade slip described in detail the life of that bewitching fox at the peak of the Emperor realm. Chapter 666. In the Mountain Range. Yu Haoran, as one of the 9 great ancient divine beast kings, a mutated 9-tailed celestial fox, the charming fox could be said to be one of the strongest divine beasts in the world. Thaling said with a complicated expression as he recalled the records of the charming fox in his mind. No matter if it's its attack power or its defense. After condensing 9 tails, the charming fox could be said to have no weaknesses. Impossible. After hearing Thaling's introduction of the charming fox, Yuhauran's first reaction was doubt. Thaling, even a god that enjoys eternal life, would have a fatal weakness. I don't believe that the charming fox doesn't have a weakness. You're right. Facing Yuhauran's doubt, Thaling nodded in agreement and said with a sorrowful tone, "If the charming fox has a fatal weakness, it's probably love." Thaling, continue. Love was a fatal weakness. The answer given by the tower spirit just now, combined with his understanding of charming foxes from his previous life, made Yuhauran interested. From the ancient era to the modern era, although there aren't many records of the charming fox, there are at least 10 cases. From these cases you will realize that in all the battles that the charming fox participated in, they have never lost, and there are no records of them being injured. Just from this point alone, it can be seen that the charming fox has great strength and defense. However, in the 10 or so records of the charming fox, their fates were all very tragic. And the ones who brought them tragic fates were those who couldn't bear the betrayal of love and chose to kill themselves. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yuhauran thought back to the end of the charming fox in the ancient tomb in his previous life. Just as Thaling said, it was the charming fox that took the initiative to ignite the fire in its heart and chose to kill itself. "Thaling, what should I do?" Yuhauran asked gloomily as he looked at Bai Tong, who was still reading the black bear's life story. She had the strongest attack and defense in the world, as well as the charming fox that no one could resist. Let's wait and see. In this regard, Thaling also had no way to deal with it. He could only give an answer that made Yuhauran even more depressed. How is this possible? Bai Tong, who had read all of Black Bear's life experiences, had a look of shock in his eyes. Even during the Middle Ages, when humans were at their peak, the demon race was still one of the strongest overlords in the universe. They still had the power to rule over hundreds of races. Why is it that even now, it is being suppressed by human experts to the point that it can only hide in the deep mountains and forests? Facing the cruel reality, Bai Tong muttered to himself in disbelief. Regarding this, Yuhauran did not say much, nor did he know what to say. Regardless of whether it was the ancient era when the divine beasts ruled the entire continent, or the demon clan ruled the world in the recent ancient era, or even the current dominance of the profound sky continent by the powerful humans, all of these were merely the laws of survival of the fittest and survival of the fittest. Yuhauran, in Black Bear's life experiences, the information I have about you humans is not complete. I need to know more about the situation of this continent from you, so... Bai Tong, who had read Black Bear's life experiences, was still somewhat unwilling to give up. He felt that Black Bear's life experiences were very likely an exception and did not necessarily represent the true situation of the entire world. Therefore, he set his sights on Yuhauran, intending to learn more about the situation of the world from him. Bai Tong, even if I, Yuhauran, die, I will never let you read my memories. Seeing that Bai Tong intended to use the bewitching fox secret technique to read his life experiences, Yuhauran immediately jumped up and activated the most powerful python blood essence in his body at the same time, showing an attitude that he would rather die than submit. There were too many secrets in his life experiences. Just the one chi into 3 pure ones martial art was enough to cause chaos in the world, not to mention the heaven-defying secrets of Thaling and rebirth. However, Bai Tong did not care at all about Yuhauran's unyielding protest. The originally scarlet fox eyes gradually flashed with a trace of purple light. After seeing the purple light in Bai Tong's eyes, Yuhauran's expression could not help but change. Because Bai Tong was using the purple light in his eyes to read Black Bear's life experiences. At the same time, he was even more frightened to find that the purple light had locked onto him, and he could not avoid it even if he wanted to. What to do? Seeing that the purple light was about to leave Bai Tong's eyes, Yu Haoran helplessly found that he did not seem to have any way to deal with it. When the purple light left Bai Tong's eyes and shot towards his own eyes, Yu Haoran subconsciously took out a simple bronze mirror from his storage ring. The simple bronze mirror happened to block the 2 rays of purple light that shot towards him. The ancient Khanate magic treasure, the yin-yang mirror of life and death. After seeing that the simple bronze mirror had blocked and reflected the purple light, Bai Tong's face revealed a look of horror, just like Yu Haoran had before. When he wanted to dodge the reflected purple light, Bai Tong found that it was already too late. The 2 rays of purple light shot back into his eyes. Then, Bai Tong was like a black bear, standing there in a daze without moving an inch. What made Yu Haoran feel incomparably shocked was that many images suddenly appeared in his mind. These images were the records of Bai Tong's life experiences. A palm-sized white fox stood on top of a mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall and was completely purple in color. In front of the white fox, there was a 1,000-meter-tall charming fox with 9 huge tails roaring towards the sky with a sorrowful expression. After roaring, the charming fox's gaze turned towards the white fox, and the sorrowful expression in its eyes instantly turned into infinite gentleness. "Tong, I was wrong. Because I made the same mistake as my ancestors. I fell in love with a man that I shouldn't have. Now, I also have to bear the punishment of my mistake." It stretched out a huge tail and gently stroked the white fox. The gentleness in the charming fox's eyes was quickly replaced by pain. "Tong, the fate of the charming fox clan is to betray and die. That man chose to betray me in order to rule the world for a long time, and I am about to accompany my ancestors, leaving you to live in this world alone. But the world is about to change. With your current strength and state, you will not be able to survive. So, I can only use the heaven-sealing earth-locking technique to completely seal you. When the time is right, you will be able to break out of the seal and be reborn. Tong, although it is said that the most untrustworthy thing in this world is a man's heart, the fate of the charming fox makes us unable to control our own fate and walk on this path." The celestial fox swore to the heavens as it retracted its tail that was stroking the little white fox. Chapter 667. In the Mountain Range. Bai Qing was willing to sacrifice her divine soul in exchange for Bai Tong's eternal happiness. A 5-colored cloud landed on Bai Tong's body. "Tong, it's time for me to leave. I hope your fate won't be as tragic as your mother's and the ancestors. I hope your life will be peaceful and happy. I hope you can meet a responsible man." After the 5-colored cloud merged with Bai Tong's body, a purple flame burned inside Bai Qing's body. As if she couldn't feel the purple flame's damage to her body and divine soul, Bai Qing kindly gave Bai Tong her most sincere and warmest blessings as a mother. As Bai Qing's fox body and soul gradually disappeared under the burning of the purple flames, Bai Tong, who was standing on a milky white rock, emitted traces of purple light around her body. The purple light gradually enveloped the milky white stone and Bai Tong, who was standing on it. When the image in his sea of consciousness finally stopped at the purple light shooting out from Bai Tong's eyes, Yu Haoran looked at Bai Tong with eyes full of pity, shock, and disbelief. Pity because of Bai Tong's tragic fate. Shock because of Bai Tong's strength. According to Bai Tong's life experience that was revealed by the purple light, Yu Haoran knew that the little white fox in front of him was actually a charming fox that had just started cultivating. Having just started cultivating, even if the bewitching fox's potential was extraordinary, it would only be a 10th-grade exotic beast at most. With the strength of a 10th-grade exotic beast, it could control a 4th-grade saint-level black bear. It was enough to say that the charming fox's bloodline inheritance was powerful. The disbelief was based on the information revealed when the purple light revealed Bai Tong's life. It was very likely that Bai Tong came from the Middle Ages or the late ages of the Demon Clan. Being able to use the sealing technique to allow its descendants to survive 1 or 2 periods of drastic changes in the world was enough to prove the horror of the charming fox with the ancient 9-tailed celestial fox bloodline inheritance. After the purple light finished revealing Bai Tong's life, Bai Tong immediately woke up. Thinking that all its secrets were exposed to the human in front of it, Bai Tong's first reaction after waking up was not anger, but embarrassment. Which one? Yu Haoran also didn't think that the inside of the yin-yang life and death mirror could reflect the purple light and peek into Bai Tong's life. He didn't know how to explain and could only choose the most old-fashioned way to apologize. Bai Tong, I'm really sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. You have to be responsible for her. Facing the embarrassed Yu Haoran, Bai Tong, who was originally shy, gradually regained her calmness and said shyly, "What?" Looking at Bai Tong in disbelief, Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. Just now, when Ziyuan activated my life, there were scenes of her washing up and dressing up. You saw everything she did. Shouldn't you take responsibility? Although it was in the shape of a fox, from its slightly red nose, it could be seen that Bai Tong's explanation just now was also due to her embarrassment. Miss Bai Tong, let's not make this kind of joke. How can you and I be together? Forcibly suppressing the shock in his heart, Yu Haoran hurriedly argued. Yu Haoran, I know what your concerns are. Yu Haoran's objection didn't make Bai Tong sad. She said in a very serious tone. As a mutated ancient 9-tailed fox bloodline of the heavenly fox clan, we charming foxes not only have powerful strength and a long lifespan, but also have a chance to transform. Speaking of this, Bai Tong suddenly turned around, then took 4 short steps, turned into a white light, and disappeared into the mountain range. However, Yu Haoran's ears echoed the promise Bai Tong made when she left. Darling Yu, wait for me. When I, Bai Tong, break through the 4th level of the Saint Realm and can transform into a human, I will definitely come to find you. Sigh. Looking at the disappearing Bai Tong, Yu Haoran finally couldn't help but sigh. Just as Yu Haoran was filled with worry, Thowling in his sea of consciousness suddenly spoke. Yu Haoran, do you still remember a few days ago in the Hidden Moon Pavilion? Your master reminded you that love is the most hurtful, and that you must not hurt Qin Lingfei's heart. Of course I remember. Nodding, Yu Haoran replied. It was because of Feng Qingyun's persuasion that he finally chose to face Qin Lingfei and take responsibility for her. Yu Haoran, although I, Thowling, am not your master, but my contribution and help to you is not inferior to Feng Qingyun's. Thowling continued to ask. Thowling, in my heart, Yu Haoran, you are not only my master, but also my relative, my elder. Although he didn't understand why Thowling suddenly wanted to compare him to his master, Yu Haoran still followed his heart and answered truthfully. Then when Bai Tong breaks through the 4th level of the Saint Realm and turns into a human, can you promise me that not only will you accept her, but you will also protect her forever and never betray her? Speaking until here, Thowling suddenly left Victor and left the sea of consciousness. For the first time, he truly faced Yu Haoran. Looking at his appearance, he was in his 40s and wearing clothes condensed from mysterious yellow qi, giving off a mysterious feeling. Yu Haoran couldn't help but fall into silence. Originally, the reason why he promised his master to accept Qin Lingfei was because the two were already engaged. In order to avoid hurting Qin Lingfei, he tried to open the frozen door of love. Even now, he didn't really have feelings for Qin Lingfei. To put it bluntly, he was afraid of being hurt emotionally. Thowling, you and I have known each other for a long time. You should understand my character very well. No matter how big the problem is, I have the confidence to overcome it. Only love is different. Looking up at Thowling, Yu Haoran didn't directly refuse, but he basically expressed his intentions. Yu Haoran, let's take a step back. If you can accept Bai Tong in the end, can you promise me that you will never betray the feelings between the two of you? Thinking of Hiryu's betrayal, Yuhauran was very calm on the surface, but his heart was bleeding like blood. Thaling knew that his request just now was a bit too much. Therefore, he took a step back and asked, Thaling, whether it is in the previous life or this life, I, Yuhauran, will always be the one being moved by love. It has always been others who dumped me. When have I ever dumped others? Facing Thaling's request to take a step back, Yuhauran very cowardly gave an affirmative answer. Yuhauran, thank you. Chapter 668. In a while, I'll accompany a few friends who won't be returning to their hometown for the Mid-Autumn Festival. I can only try my best to write the 5th chapter. If the 5th chapter is delayed because I can't handle the alcohol, I'll definitely write the 6th chapter tomorrow. In the mountain range, as he walked towards the black bear that had fainted when Bai Tong read its memories, Yuhauran interrogated Thaling, who had returned to Victor. Thaling, ever since we met, this is the first time you've asked me so seriously. According to our previous agreement, shouldn't you explain what you did just now? In ancient times, my original body, Victor, suffered a fatal attack. As a weapon spirit, not only was I almost destroyed, even the power of the law of time in Victor was almost devoured by the opponent's weapon. Back then, the pagoda spirit and Yuhauran had reached an agreement that they would no longer keep secrets from each other because he had concealed the one chi into 3 pure ones cultivation method. Therefore, in the face of Yuhauran's questioning, Thaling, who had originally wanted to hide that part of his history, could only tell the truth. Later on, it was all thanks to Bai Tong's ancestor. Not only did she save Victor, but she also used a special secret technique to help me recover my spiritual body as a weapon spirit. She also taught me the best formation techniques, which allowed me to escape the calamity of ancient times. It can be said that the ancestor of the Charmfox clan had saved my pagoda spirit's life, and he had also recognized my worth. Thaling, although I can't give you 100% guarantee, I promise you that I'll do my best to protect Bai Tong in the future. After listening to Thaling's explanation of his relationship with Bai Tong's ancestor, Yuhauran, who was deeply moved, solemnly made his promise. Yuhauran, thank you. As Thaling expressed his sincere gratitude, he also passed on all his knowledge of formations to his second doppelganger. He took out a pill that could be used to wake up, crushed it, and scattered it on the black bear's body. 3 seconds later, the black bear, who had fainted, gradually woke up. Master, why are you here? After waking up, the black bear saw Yuhauran standing in front of him and asked curiously. After all, according to their original agreement, he was to return to Qinyun Peak after breaking through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm. Nothing, I was just worried about you, so I came to see if you've successfully broken through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm. I want to ask if you can leave the mountain range with me and go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Seeing that the black bear had forgotten everything that had happened with Bai, Yuhauran knew that Bai Tong had purposely erased the black bear's memories. After all, Bai Tong's relationship with Bai Tong was to the black bear est. TSS. Yuhauran also remembered that he had promised the pagoda spirit that he would treat Bai Tong well in the future, so he could only lie to cover up everything for Bai Tong. Of course. Perhaps it was because the charming fox had a natural mastery of the art of illusion, but after hearing Yuhauran's lie, the black bear automatically ignored the fact that he had broken through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm and did not look for Yuhauran immediately. Instead, he excitedly agreed to go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters with him. The more he asked, the more suspicious the black bear would be. Therefore, Yuhauran directly gestured for the black bear to enlarge its body and jumped onto the black bear's back. Black bear, take me to find the black rat first, then to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Master, the rat ancestor left this mountain range half a month ago. As for where it went, it didn't leave behind any clues. The black bear hurriedly reminded Yuhauran when he heard that Yuhauran was going to look for the rat ancestor. In that case, let's leave the mountain range now and go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. They had only known each other for a short time, and their relationship was not deep. Therefore, when he heard that the black rat had left the mountain range, Yuhauran was not too disappointed. He only urged the black bear to leave the mountain range quickly and go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Just as the black bear was leaving the mountain range with Yuhauran, in a small cave not far from the black bear's cave, a pair of small black eyes stared intently at the black bear flying away from the mountain range. The eyes were full of reluctance and pain. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was almost 30,000 kilometers away from the mountain range where the 100-Chi Gate was. Flying to the Valley of the Medicine Masters with the power of a martial arts grandmaster would take at least half a month. Luckily, after breaking through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm, the Black Bear's power had not only changed tremendously, but its flying speed had also increased by 10 times. Therefore, in less than 2 days, the Black Bear brought Yuhauran to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Looking at the slightly ordinary entrance to the valley, Yuhauran, who had lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life, knew that there was another world inside the valley. The Tianxian continent had the 3 wonders: the Heavenly Palace of the Yushu Temple, the Sword Tomb of the Sky Sword Sect, and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Heavenly Palace of the Yushu Temple was a unique mountain peak that could float independently in mid-air. It had the strongest defense in the world. According to rumors, when the Yushu Temple was not as strong as it was now, there was once a powerful cultivator who had just broken through to the martial honorable realm and attacked the Heavenly Palace with a complete martial honorable realm weapon. In the end, the martial honorable cultivator was exhausted and the Heavenly Palace was not damaged at all. The Sword Tomb of the Sky Sword Sect was a cemetery where countless swords were buried. Although the Sky Sword Sect was only a first-rate sect, even the most powerful Yushu Temple did not dare to provoke the Sky Sword Sect. The reason was that the Sword Tomb of the Sky Sword Sect had the strongest attack power in the world. The various great sects had very clear record. 100 years ago, the deputy sect leader of the Sky Sword Sect had offended a peak-level 3rd-grade martial honorable cultivator in the process of searching for treasures. After killing the deputy sect leader of the Sky Sword Sect, the peak-level 3rd-grade martial honorable cultivator did not quell the anger in his heart. He immediately charged towards the Sky Sword Sect with a complete martial honorable realm weapon. The sect leader of the Sky Sword Sect had only used 1% of the power in the Sword Tomb to easily kill the peak-level 3rd-grade martial honorable cultivator. If not for the fact that the Sky Sword Sect did not have enough strength and numbers, they would have been ranked among the top sects long ago. The 3rd wonder was the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Not only did the valley have an enchanting environment like a paradise on earth, it also had the most abundant spiritual energy in the world. This was because at the bottom of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there was a spiritual vein of the upper 3rd grade. If not for the unique way in which the Valley of the Medicine Masters existed, it would have been forcefully occupied by cultivators of the martial honorable realm and above. "Who are you?" the disciple in charge of guarding the entrance of the valley asked politely when he saw the young man standing at the entrance of the valley unwilling to leave. "Hello, my surname is Yu and my name is Hauran. I am the deputy sect leader of the 100-Chi Gate. I have received an invitation from Elder Xiang to visit the Valley of the Medicine Masters." Yuhauran hurriedly introduced himself politely. "The deputy sect leader of the 100-Chi Gate, Yuhauran, has received an invitation from Elder Xiang." After hearing Yuhauran's detailed introduction, the disciple in charge of guarding the entrance of the valley muttered to himself as he recalled. Finally, he remembered that Elder Xiang had returned to the Valley of the Medicine Masters a few days ago and had solemnly introduced and warned him. Chapter 669. Valley of the Medicine Masters. In front of the valley. "That's right. Having lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life, he knew that most of the people in the Valley of the Medicine Masters were alchemists who were obsessed with the art of alchemy. To be valued in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, no matter how high one's status was, no matter how strong one's cultivation was, it was far better to show off one's outstanding achievements in alchemy. Therefore, in the face of the Valley of the Medicine Master's disciples' questioning, Yu Haoran nodded and admitted, "You are indeed Grandmaster Yu." After receiving Yu Haoran's confirmation, the Valley of the Medicine Master's disciple immediately became excited. He straightened his clothes and greeted respectfully. Disciple Su Tingyuan greets Grandmaster Yu. After hearing Su Tingyuan's self-introduction, Yu Haoran praised him like an elder: cloud crane 9 heavens, dragon soaring 4 seas. Since you are a disciple of the Ting generation, you must have already begun to dabble in the pill scripture of the valley. After hearing Yu Haoran's praise, Su Tingyuan hurriedly said modestly, "Your disciple is stupid. After 10 years in the sect, I have only begun to dabble in the pill scripture and can only attempt to refine level 10 vitality pills. Alchemy requires talent, hard work, and a master. Since you are already able to dabble in the pill scripture and attempt to refine pills, it shows that you are highly valued by the Valley of the Medicine Masters. I hope you do not waste your talent and ascend to the position of Grandmaster Alchemy as soon as possible." Yu Haoran nodded encouragingly. "Many thanks for Grandmaster Yu's teachings. Your disciple will remember them." In the face of Yu Haoran's encouragement, Su Tingyuan thanked him even more excitedly. In the face of Su Tingyuan's thanks, Yu Haoran only nodded and did not speak. This made Su Tingyuan realize his lack of manners, and he hurriedly corrected himself. "Grandmaster Yu, when Elder Xiang returned to the valley a few days ago, he specifically instructed me that when you arrived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, I must inform him immediately. Please wait for a while." After that, Su Tingyuan used a special jade talisman to inform Xiang Wenshuan in the valley. Haha! It was not very long, only about a minute or so. With a burst of hearty laughter, Xiang Wenshuan quickly appeared in front of the valley. "Brother Yu, according to the time we agreed on, you're late by 2 days." When he saw Yu Haoran standing in front of the valley with a smile on his face, Xiang Wenshuan put his arm around his shoulder and complained happily. Yu Haoran casually explained, "Old brother Xiang, there's nothing I can do about it. There are a lot of things to do in the sect, so I was delayed for a while. There's no point in continuing to guard a sect that's about to fall from grace. Why don't younger brother you join the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become a carefree alchemist?" Xiang Wenshuan commented disdainfully as he thought of the declining 100 Qi gate. After that, he began to reveal his true intentions for inviting Yu Haoran to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. In response, Yu Haoran only smiled and did not give any reply. "Younger brother Yu, this is your first time in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. I'll take you on a tour now." Seeing that Yu Haoran had ignored his invitation, Xiang Wenshuan did not mind either. He also knew that he could not rush the invitation, so he took the initiative to change the topic. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran followed Xiang Wenshuan into the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The first thing he felt after entering the valley was that his vision was slightly blurry. Yu Haoran knew that this was because the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Valley of the Medicine Masters was too dense. At the edge of the valley, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was close to vaporizing. Luckily, he had lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life, so he was very familiar with the environment in the valley. Therefore, he did not show any signs of shock because of the dense spiritual energy in front of him and the beautiful environment in front of him that was close to a fairyland. As for Yu Haoran's overly calm reaction, Xiang Wenshuan was slightly disappointed. He felt that his plan to use the unique fairyland environment of the Valley of the Medicine Masters to tempt Yu Haoran to leave the 100 Qi Gate and join the Valley of the Medicine Masters would not work. Therefore, after a simple tour of a few scenic spots with special symbolic significance in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Xiang Wenxuan led Yu Haoran straight to the center of the valley, which was the source of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Elder Xiang, what brings you here to see the valley head today? When Xiang Wenxuan brought Yu Haoran to an extremely spacious courtyard where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had already been completely vaporized, a handsome middle-aged man in a green robe stood at the entrance of the courtyard and greeted them with a smile. He exuded a scholarly temperament. So it's Elder Zhao. Raising his head to look at the middle-aged man standing in front of the courtyard, Xiang Wenxuan responded with a smile. Then, he turned his head to introduce the man to Yu Haoran. Brother Yu, this is Elder Zhao Qing from our Valley of the Medicine Masters. He's also an alchemy grandmaster. Then, Xiang Wenxuan introduced Yu Haoran to Zhao Qing. Elder Zhao, brother Yu may be young and his cultivation is low, but his talent and potential in the way of the pill is astonishing. He is now at the pinnacle of the pill grandmaster realm. After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's introduction, Zhao Qing's originally smiling expression was instantly replaced by joy, and his tone became even more enthusiastic as he called out to Yu Haoran. Since ancient times, heroes have been born from the young. I never thought that Grandmaster Yu's talent and potential in the way of the pill is so astonishing. I, Zhao Qing, love to make friends with pill geniuses like Grandmaster Yu. Elder Zhao, you are too kind. I am not as outstanding as Brother Xiang makes me out to be. I can only be considered a junior in the way of the pill. Yu Haoran hurriedly replied humbly. Zhao Qing was not only a sinister person who had secretly poisoned his master, but also an enemy who had tried to use a demonic technique to devour his talent in the way of the pill in his previous life. At this moment, facing his enemy Zhao Qing, Yu Haoran wanted nothing more than to skin him alive and pull out his bones. However, in order to obtain the demonic technique that could devour talent, he could only pretend to be a snake for the time being. Grandmaster Yu, excessive humility is arrogance. To be praised by Elder Xiang, who is known for his foresight, I believe that your talent and potential in the way of the pill must be even more outstanding. In the face of Yu Haoran's humility, Zhao Qing used a mocking method to test him. Elder Zhao, I am really not being humble. It's just that some time ago, with Brother Xiang's help, I successfully refined a level 5 9th grade 5 lives mystery pill. Yu Haoran seemed to be humble, but his shocking talent in the way of the pill was exposed, and he used it to bait Zhao Qing. Grandmaster Yu, when are you free? I will host a banquet to welcome you and discuss the way of the pill grandmaster. Zhao Qing was very familiar with Xiang Wenxuan's skill in the way of the pill. He knew that Xiang Wenxuan did not have the ability to refine the 5 lives mystery pill that could help a quasi-martial honorable break through the heart tribulation. In other words, the person who had truly refined the 5 lives mystery pill was Yu Haoran, and Xiang Wenxuan was at most an assistant. Chapter 670. In the Valley of the Medicine Masters. In the face of Zhao Qing's invitation, Yu Haoran wanted nothing more than to nod his head and agree so that he could capture Zhao Qing alive and have Thaling interrogate him about the demonic art of devouring. But he knew that he could not be too hasty. If he aroused suspicion, not only would it be detrimental to his plan to capture Zhao Qing alive, he might even offend the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Therefore, Yu Haoran purposely looked hesitantly at Xiang Wenxuan. After some consideration, Xiang Wenxuan nodded his head at Yu Haoran in silent agreement. To be able to receive Elder Zhao's guidance, this junior would be more than happy to do so. After receiving Xiang Wenxuan's silent approval, Yu Haoran immediately responded enthusiastically. After receiving Yu Haoran's approval, Zhao Qing was ecstatic. I will be staying in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a while. If Grandmaster Yu is free, You can ask a disciple to bring you to the secluded pavilion to look for me. Then, he said to Xiang Wenxuan with a smile. Elder Xiang, Grandmaster Yu is an esteemed guest of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. As an elder of the valley, it is only right that we treat our esteemed guest with respect. So, Elder Xiang, please bring Grandmaster Yu to see the Valley Master first. I will be back in a while. How could I? Xiang Wenxuan said politely. No worries. Zhao Qing waved his hand and turned to leave the courtyard. After leaving the courtyard and completely avoiding Yu Haoran and Xiang Wenxuan's line of sight, Zhao Qing used his divine consciousness to scan his surroundings. After confirming that there was no one watching, he immediately took out a special communication jade amulet and left a message about Yu Haoran. After keeping the communication jade amulet, Zhao Qing looked behind him proudly and quickly returned to the secluded pavilion. Brother Yu, Zhao Qing may seem friendly and hospitable, but his thoughts are hard to read. After Zhao Qing left, Xiang Wenxuan, who was all smiles, suddenly became serious as he reminded Yu Haoran in a serious tone. If you really want to visit the secluded pavilion, it's best that you let me know first. I will accompany you. Brother Xiang, I got it. As Yu Haoran nodded his head in acknowledgement, an idea surfaced in his mind. It was a plan that would allow him to capture Zhao Qing alive without incurring the wrath of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had to successfully refine the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir and obtain the opportunity to receive the Master Apothecary's inheritance. Valley Master, Wen Xian has brought a friend to seek an audience. Seeing that Yu Haoran had taken his advice to heart, Xiang Wenxuan heaved a sigh of relief and gestured towards the courtyard. Could it be Grandmaster Yu Haoran who can refine the 5 Lives mysterious gate pill? After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's request, a joyful voice immediately came from the courtyard. Yes, Master Yu. Xiang Wenxuan replied. With Xiang Wenxuan's response, the courtyard door opened automatically. Then, an old man in his 60s with silver hair stood in front of the door with a gentle expression. Brother Yu, this is the current Valley Master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi. Seeing the silver-haired old man standing in front of the courtyard door, Xiang Wenxuan bowed and hurriedly introduced him to Yu Haoran. Junior Yu Haoran greets the Valley Master. Actually, even without Xiang Wenxuan's introduction, Yu Haoran already knew that the old man standing in front of him was Gu Zi, the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters for nearly 100 years. Gu Zi was the collective name of every Valley Master of the Medicine Masters. No matter what your name was or where you came from the moment you became the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters, the name Gu Zi would be your name in the pugilistic world. Not bad at all. Gu Zi nodded his head in satisfaction after looking him up and down. After praising him, Gu Zi stepped aside and gestured, Grandmaster Yu after you. Valley Master after you. Although he knew that the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters in front of him was a person who did not care about trifles, Yu Haoran would definitely not take the initiative to break the etiquette of the first meeting. Grandmaster Yu, Xiang Wenxuan has already told me about your deeds in detail a few days ago. After entering the courtyard side by side, Gu Zi impolitely asked for guidance before they could even get to know each other better. However, this Valley Master has 2 questions that have been weighing down on my heart. I have always wanted to seek the Grandmaster's answers. Xiang Wenxuan, who was following behind, could not help but slap his forehead and smile helplessly. Gu Zi, who was obsessed with the art of alchemy, was not keen on reciprocal courtesy. He preferred to directly discuss the art of alchemy. Therefore, Yu Haoran did not mind and directly gestured for Gu Zi to speak his mind. Master Yu, this Valley Master has refined the 5 Lives mysterious pill gate 5 times. The first failure was due to the extraction of the spiritual herbs, the second failure was due to the seal forming of the pill, and the third failure was due to the lightning tribulation. After receiving Yu Haoran's approval, Guzi was happy and instantly had a good impression of him. He also took the opportunity to ask the question in his heart. Grandmaster Yu, how did you ensure that the 108 spiritual medicines were all refined to the limit when refining the 5 Lives Black Pill for the first time? Valley Master, would you like to invite Grandmaster Yu to take a seat first before answering your questions? Seeing that the Valley Master had asked his question, Xiang Wenshuan stood in place and stared at Yu Haoran. He felt that it was too rude and could not help but remind him. Oh, it was this Valley Master's fault. After hearing Xiang Wenshuan's reminder, Guzi realized his rudeness and apologized to Yu Haoran as he led him to a picturesque reception hall. After sitting down and indicating for the disciples to serve the spiritual fruits that the Valley of the Medicine Masters used to entertain the guests, Guzi looked at Yu Haoran expectantly. Although he was a little envious of the spiritual fruits on the table that could directly improve one's cultivation and soul, in the face of Guzi's expectant eyes, Yu Haoran could only answer his question first. Valley Head, didn't Brother Xiang mention to you that he was the one who refined the 108 stalks of spiritual herbs? After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Guzi's gaze turned to Xiang Wenshuan. Xiang Wenshuan hurriedly explained. Valley Master, although the extraction of the 108 spiritual medicines was completed by me alone, the standards for the extraction of the spiritual medicines were refined according to Brother Yu's requirements in advance. Moreover, after the extraction of the spiritual medicines was completed, before the formation of the pill, Brother Yu also used a special method to further purify and compress the spiritual liquid. After hearing Xiang Wenshuan's explanation, Guzi's gaze turned back to Yu Haoran. Valley Master, as a strong alchemist in the alchemy Grandmaster realm, you must know that the extraction process of a pill needs a total of 2 times. Seeing that Xiang Wenshuan had pushed the fire of war back to himself, Yu Haoran knew that if he did not show some of his methods, he would not be able to attract the attention of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, nor would he be able to escape the questioning of Guzi like a student. Chapter 671. Medicine King Valley in the Living Room. Although the second refining process of the spiritual medicine is very important, the second refining of the spiritual liquid using the condensing technique is directly related to whether the pill can be successfully formed in the end and the quality of the pill after the formation. Deliberately pointing out the importance of the second purification of the spiritual liquid, this was a way for Yu Haoran to show his ability. So, using the condensing technique to further refine the spiritual liquid's purity is related to my alchemy method. And this move directly blocked Guzi's idea of asking further. Okay. In the face of Yu Haoran's explanation, Guzi was obviously not satisfied. But as an alchemy grandmaster who was obsessed with alchemy, Guzi knew that alchemy recipes and alchemy techniques were the foundation of an alchemy master's survival. He had neither the qualification nor the ability, let alone the secrets of others' survival. So, he could only skip the first question and continue to ask the second question in his heart. Master Yu, when condensing the 5 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill, how did you ensure that the spiritual power was evenly distributed during the compression process of the spiritual liquid? Facing Guzi's second question, Yu Haoran reached out and took out the 7th rank 3rd grade snow pear fruit that could nourish the soul. While chewing it in big bites, he looked at Guzi with a smile that was not a smile. I know. In the face of Yu Haoran's response with a smile, Guzi suddenly answered himself helplessly. It's about your alchemy method, it's not easy to disclose it, right? Nodding, Yu Haoran ran the Great Mystery Heart Sutra cultivation method and began to absorb the energy transformed by the snow pear fruit to nourish and enhance the soul power of the divine soul. The third question, how did you ensure that the pill can withstand the attack of 3 lightning tribulations after it was out of the furnace? Guzi then asked the third question in his heart. As for Guzi's third question, Yu Haoran threw away the snow pear fruit that only had a core left. He picked up a fire phoenix cherry fruit that could also improve the soul and had reached the 5th grade of the 7th rank. After throwing it into his mouth, he still responded to Gu Zi's third question with a faint smile. In this regard, Gu Zi nodded even more helplessly and answered himself. I know. It's also related to the method of condensing the core, so it's not good to reveal it, right? However, after receiving Yu Haoran's nod of acknowledgement, many of the unsatisfied grains finally couldn't help but complain to Xiang Wenxuan. Wenxian, aren't you someone who is very easy to talk to, and is also very willing to raise each other's alchemy cultivation through exchanges? But now, in this Valley Master's opinion, there is no difference between a certain person and those selfish people. In the face of the Valley Master's complaints and mockery, Xiang Wenxuan looked at Yu Haoran helplessly with a pleading look in his eyes. In response, Yu Haoran obviously could not continue pretending. After spitting out the core of the fire phoenix cherry fruit, he smiled and said to Gu Zi, Valley Head, although this junior came to the Valley of the Medicine Masters because of Brother Xiang's warm invitation, this junior also has 3 personal matters that I need the Valley Head's help with. Speak. Hearing that Yu Haoran needed his help, Gu Zi, who was originally in a bad mood, immediately straightened his body and said in a businesslike manner, Since you have a favor to ask of me now, then let's see how I'm going to take revenge for being rejected just now. Looking at Yu Haoran from the corner of his eyes, Gu Zi planned proudly in his heart. The first matter, I need to continue to trouble Brother Xiang. In response to the sudden change in Gu Zi's attitude, Yu Haoran sneered in his heart, and then said with a smile on his face, Because this junior intends to open the furnace and continue to refine a 5 lives mysterious pill, I need Brother Xiang to help me continue to refine 108 spiritual medicines. Continue to refine the 5 lives mysterious pill. Yu Haoran's first personal matter immediately made Gu Zi's breathing become heavier. He looked at him with eyes full of anticipation. Without waiting for Gu Zi and Xiang Wenxuan to reply, Yu Haoran continued to make his second request. As for the second matter, I also need Brother Xiang's help. Because this junior intends to open the furnace and try to refine the rank 4 first-grade Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir, I also need Brother Xiang to help me refine 365 spiritual medicines. Not only did he want to refine the 5 lives mysterious pill, but he also intended to refine a higher-grade Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir that would also require one to pass through the lightning calamity and could help a quasi-martial honor pass through the body calamity. Yu Haoran's second request made Gu Zi, who was obsessed with the way of pills, put down his arrogance as the Valley Master of the Medicine Master and requested with a smile on his face. Master Yu, although Wenxuan's standards in the way of pills are not bad, compared to me, he is still inferior. The 5 lives mysterious pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir are both heaven-defying pills that exceed their own grade. The requirements for every refinement process are very strict and there is no room for the slightest mistake. At this point, Gu Zi stood up and patted his chest in assurance. Therefore, in order to ensure the success of the refinement of the 5 lives mysterious pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir, I will personally help you with the entire refinement process. This. Faced with Gu Zi's initiative, Yu Haoran deliberately revealed a difficult expression. In fact, even if Gu Zi did not take the initiative to mention it, the refinement of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir had to be done by him personally. This was because the refinement of 365 spiritual medicines not only had very strict requirements for one's alchemy cultivation, but it also had very high requirements for the alchemist's own cultivation. As the Valley Master of the Medicine Master Valley, Gu Zi's alchemy cultivation had not only reached the alchemy Grandmaster realm, but his own martial cultivation had also reached the peak of the 6th grade martial saint realm. However, considering Gu Zi's personality of not being ashamed to ask questions, Yu Haoran was worried that during the process of condensing and nourishing the elixir, he would disturb him because of the doubts in his heart. Therefore, some things had to be agreed upon beforehand. This was also the reason why he used this method of provocation. You Howren, could it be that you are not happy that I, the Valley Master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and a Grand Master of Alchemy, am willing to take the initiative to help you? Seeing Yu Howren's awkward expression, Gu Zi immediately scolded him unhappily. Faced with the angry Gu Zi, Yu Howren nodded and replied without the slightest fear. Valley Master, I am not afraid to offend you, but I am really not happy that you are willing to help me. What? Yu Howren's ruthless rejection made Gu Zi even angrier. At the same time, he could not help but point at Xiang Wenxuan and question him. The one with the surname Yu, how am I inferior to Xiang Wenxuan? Brother Yu, the Valley Master's alchemy cultivation is older than mine. Seeing that Yu Howren had actually led the flames of war to himself, and because of him, the Valley Master had questioned him, Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly stepped forward to explain. However, before he could finish his explanation, Yu Howren directly interrupted him. Valley Master, just as you said earlier, whether it is the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill or the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, they are all heaven-defying elixirs that exceed their own grade. Therefore, in the entire refining process of the elixir, in addition to the perfect refinement of the spiritual medicines, it also requires an absolutely quiet environment so that I can concentrate on the art of condensing the elixir. And you? Chapter 672. Medicine King Valley, in the living room. Surnamed you better make yourself clear to me. What's wrong with my character? Facing Yu Howren, who shook his head in disappointment, Gu Zi couldn't help but shout angrily as if he had been greatly humiliated. Valley Master, can you guarantee that during the entire process of refining pills, you will suppress the doubts in your heart and not disturb my refining? Facing Gu Zi's reprimand, Yu Howren also stood up and asked with a serious expression. Valley Master, can you guarantee that during the entire process of refining pills, you will listen to my arrangements 100% and will not allow a trace of doubt or hesitation in your heart? Back then, the reason why Xiang Wenxuan was able to perfectly cooperate with him in refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill was because he relied on refining the detoxification pill and displayed his exquisite alchemy techniques, allowing him to wholeheartedly accept his help in refining the pill. And Gu Zi? He just heard from Xiang Wenxuan that he would not be convinced in his heart. Therefore, Yu Howren needed to use an oath to bind him so that he could successfully refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. After all, refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill required 365 kinds of spiritual herbs. He only had one set and it was exchanged from the Meng family with the help of Emperor Qin. He couldn't allow himself to fail. This. In the face of Yu Howren's continuous questioning, Gu Zi suddenly realized that it was not that the other party looked down on him. He was just worried that when they first met, he would be too inquisitive and affect the refining of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Therefore, Gu Zi, who also knew his character flaw, didn't know how to refute Yu Howren's questioning just now. Seeing that Gu Zi was left speechless by his question, Yu Howren was secretly pleased with himself as he sat back down in his chair. He continued to choose spirit fruits that were suitable for him. He used the spirit fruits to increase his cultivation and soul power while giving Gu Zi ample time to think. After eating 3 different types of spiritual fruits in a row, Gu Zi finally thought it through and solemnly guaranteed to Yu Howren. Master Yu, this Valley Master swears to you that as long as you can let me assist in refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, I promise that during the entire refining process, I will never disturb your refining. Alright. To Gu Zi, who was obsessed with alchemy, being able to swear by his alchemy realm was no less than swearing by the laws of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, Yu Howren could not continue to refuse and nodded in agreement. Brother Yu, what's your third private matter? After agreeing to assist in alchemy, The atmosphere between the Valley Master and Yu Haoran instantly became harmonious. This made Xiang Wenxuan, who had been on tenterhooks, immediately relax. At the same time, he suddenly remembered that Yu Haoran had mentioned that he was invited to the Valley of the Medicine Masters for 3 personal matters. The refining of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir were 2 of them. There was still a 3rd matter that he had not mentioned. Valley Master, Old Brother Xiang, my 3rd private matter is related to the inheritance of the Honorable Apothecary in the herb field. I would like to try the inheritance. Yu Haoran thought about it for a moment and then said his 3rd request. In the face of Yu Haoran's 3rd request, Xiang Wenxuan, who was secretly excited, immediately turned his gaze to Gu Zi. After all, this was related to the inheritance of the Honorable Apothecary and was not something that an ordinary elder like him could decide. He needed the approval of the Valley Master and the head elder. There shouldn't be a problem. After thinking about it for a moment, Gu Zi nodded in agreement and gave the reason and method for agreeing. According to the rules of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, to accept the inheritance of the Honorable Apothecary, 3 conditions must be met. Alchemy at the Grand Master level, an alchemist belonging to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, and the agreement of both the head elder and myself. Grandmaster use alchemy at the Grandmaster level and with Wenxuan's guarantee, this is not a problem. Of course, I have no problems with this. As for the head elder who has always cherished alchemy geniuses, I believe he will not object. The only problem is his identity. Grandmaster, you can become a guest alchemist of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and help us refine some pills every 3 years. He only needed to provide some pills without any restrictions every 3 years. Yu Haoran considered the suggestion of becoming a guest alchemist for a moment before nodding in agreement. Grandmaster Yu, when do you intend to start refining pills? After resolving Yu Haoran's 3rd personal problem, Gu Zi's thoughts immediately returned to refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir. Valley Master, I am a little tired from the long journey. In this state, I cannot refine pills. Therefore, I would like to rest for the night and start refining pills tomorrow morning. After calculating his time, Yu Haoran realized that he was very tight on time and decided to start refining pills as soon as possible. That's great. Hearing that Yu Haoran would start refining pills the next morning, Gu Zi was very happy. Then, he instructed Wenxuan, Wenxuan, bring Grandmaster Yu to the Earth Source Pavilion to rest. Valley Master, are you sure it's the Earth Source Pavilion? Wenxuan asked in disbelief when he heard that Gu Zi had arranged for Yu Haoran to rest in the Earth Source Pavilion. Of course. Gu Zi, who was very clear about the significance of the Earth Source Pavilion, nodded and explained further. Apart from being Grandmaster Yu's temporary residence in the Medicine King Valley, the Earth Source Pavilion is also the place where he will refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir tomorrow. I understand. After hearing Gu Zi's further explanation, Xiang Wenxuan understood the real reason why he had arranged for Yu Haoran to stay in the Earth Source Pavilion. He nodded to express his understanding and stood up to leave. Valley Master, I will bring Grandmaster Yu to the Earth Source Pavilion to rest now. Go ahead. Gu Zi waved his hand and gestured. After leaving Gu Zi's courtyard, Xiang Wenxuan lowered his head and led the way without saying a word. Yu Haoran, who was following behind, felt that something was wrong and could only bear with it for the time being. However, when Xiang Wenxuan arrived at a courtyard that was not very big but was filled with scorching spirit energy, Yu Haoran had already guessed why Xiang Wenxuan had asked Gu Zi if the Earth Source Pavilion was suitable in the guest hall. This was because not only was the concentration of spirit energy in this courtyard not inferior to Gu Zi's courtyard in the slightest, but there was also an extremely outstanding earth core flame at the bottom of the courtyard. Brother Yu, Now you know the real reason why I wanted to further confirm whether the place that the Valley Lord arranged for you to live in was suitable or not. Feeling the scorching spirit qi coming from the courtyard, Xiang Wenxuan sighed with envy. I understand. Chapter 673. Medicine King Valley, in front of the Earth Origin Pavilion. After guiding the spirit qi of heaven and earth into his body, Yu Haoran was pleasantly surprised to find that the spirit qi of the Earth Origin Pavilion, mixed with the Earth Origin flame, could not only greatly increase the grade of his physical body, it could also increase his cultivation while purifying the impurities in his yuan power. What shocked him even more was that the spirit qi of the Earth Origin flame could also increase the strength of his spirit while refining his soul power. Thus, Yu Haoran, who felt the extraordinary spirit qi of heaven and earth, immediately informed his two clones to use the spirit qi of heaven and earth to increase their cultivation and strength through the guidance of his sea of consciousness. Brother Yu, in our Medicine King Valley, there are a total of 3 courtyards with the densest spirit qi and the most unique environments. After calming his envy, Xiang Wenxuan explained as he pushed open the doors to the courtyard. Dual origins of heaven and earth, heart of the spirit vein. The heart of the spirit vein refers to the immortal fate pavilion where the Valley Master currently reside. The spirit qi in the immortal fate pavilion is like smoke and is as beautiful as a fairyland. It is ranked 3rd in the Medicine King Valley. Yu Haoran nodded in agreement as he continued to guide the spirit qi into his body. Ethereal and ethereal like a fairyland, like a celestial being. The courtyard where the Valley Master resides is worthy of being called a fairyland. After hearing Yu Haoran's praise, Xiang Wenxuan nodded in agreement and continued to introduce the other 2 courtyards. Dual origins of heaven and earth refers to the Heavenly Origin Pavilion and the Earth Origin Pavilion. They are the courtyards that the Medicine King Valley uses to receive the most distinguished guests. The Earth Origin Pavilion is ranked 2nd, and the Heavenly Origin Pavilion is ranked 1st. Xiang Wenxuan turned to look at Yu Haoran and asked, Brother Yu, do you know which courtyard the Valley Master arranged for the Emperor Qin of the Great Emperor Qin when he came to visit the Medicine King Valley 2 years ago? Shaking his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he could not guess. Sealed Moon Pavilion, 2nd only to the dual origins of heaven and earth. Xiang Wenxuan said with a complicated expression. I understand. Although Xiang Wenxuan didn't say it directly, Yu Haoran knew what he meant. Therefore, while indicating that he understood, Yu Haoran also entrusted Xiang Wenxian to convey his gratitude on behalf of the Valley Master. Brother Yu, the distance from the 100 Qi Gate to Medicine King's Valley is more than 30,000 kilometers. Even with the help of your pet beast, I'm sure you're exhausted from the long journey. Seeing that Yu Haoran had accepted the Valley Master's sincerity, Xiang Wenxuan felt gratified and took the opportunity to bid farewell. So, I'll be heading back first. Tomorrow morning, I'll accompany the Valley Master to assist you in refining pills. Brother Xiang. Yu Haoran gestured for Xiang Wenxuan to stop for the time being. He thought for a moment and finally asked, The reason why the Earth Genesis Pavilion is superior to the Immortal Affinity Pavilion is because of the extremely high-quality Earth core flame hidden beneath the Earth Genesis Pavilion. I wonder what's so special about the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion that's even more outstanding than the Earth Genesis Pavilion? In the face of Yu Haoran's questioning, Xiang Wenxuan's face immediately revealed a troubled expression. Ever since the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion had been built, it had never been opened to the public. The reason was that the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion hid a unique treasure that could make all alchemists and artificers go crazy. Brother Xiang, since it's not convenient for you to answer, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Seeing the awkward expression on Xiang Wenxuan's face, Yu Haoran immediately put on an understanding gesture and gestured. Brother Yu, thank you. Seeing that Yu Haoran was no longer asking about the secrets of the heavenly Genesis Pavilion, Xiang Wenshuan breathed a long sigh of relief and thanked him before turning to leave the Earth Genesis Pavilion. Thaling, can I trouble you to use your divine sense to check the Medicine King's Valley and see if there are any strange courtyards with a similar environment to the Earth Genesis Pavilion, but with a stronger burning aura? After Xiang Wenshuan left the Earth Genesis Pavilion, Yu Haoran directly contacted Thaling in his knowledge, intending to use his own methods to investigate the secrets of the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion. No. Actually, even without Yu Haoran's instructions, Thaling had already tried to use his divine sense to observe the environment of the Medicine King's Valley the moment they entered, but the results were not optimistic. The entire Medicine King's Valley not only has a protective formation that restricts divine sense, but there is also a spirit vein that has its own consciousness under the Medicine King's Valley. It completely protects several important places in the Medicine King's Valley, making it impossible for divine sense to approach. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yu Haoran could not help but frown slightly. He had not expected that the secrets hidden in the Medicine King's Valley far exceeded what he knew in his previous life. What made him feel even more helpless was whether the high-grade Grade 3 spirit vein, which already had its own consciousness, was constantly monitoring every movement in the Medicine King's Valley. If it was, then how could he make use of the opportunity of being a guest to directly capture Zhao Qing alive? However, this problem only troubled him for less than 3 seconds, because if the high-grade Grade 3 spirit vein had its own consciousness, if it was constantly monitoring every movement of the people in the Medicine King's Valley, then Zhao Qing, who wanted to devour his Pill Dao talent, would definitely have a way to hide from the spirit vein's consciousness. At that time, he could make use of Zhao Qing's means to hide from the spirit vein's consciousness. As for the secret of the Tianyuan Pavilion, although he could not use his divine sense to confirm it, Yu Haoran could basically guess that the Tianyuan Pavilion was hiding a heavenly fire that could drive alchemists and weaponsmiths crazy. Although he was very tempted by the heavenly fire, he knew that with his current strength, trying to capture and refine the heavenly fire was undoubtedly a suicidal attempt. Hence, temporarily dispelling the idea of checking out the Tianyuan Pavilion, Yu Haoran stepped into the loft in the courtyard and found the room with the densest spirit qi. He then used the spirit qi to attempt a breakthrough in his physical body grade. When his cultivation had broken through to the martial ancestor realm, his physical body grade had already reached the peak of 3rd grade martial ancestor. Back then, he had been limited by the disappearance of the stars and had not succeeded in breaking through to 4th grade martial ancestor. The spirit qi in the Tianyuan Pavilion had greatly increased the physical body grade and was not at all inferior to the power of the stars gathered by the formation. Sitting cross-legged on the wooden bed in the room, Yu Haoran simultaneously circulated the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and the Astral Do Mantra, intending to break through to the peak of 1st grade martial ancestor at the same time as his physical body grade. After all, he had consumed 5 spirit fruits that contained powerful spirit qi and soul power in the guest hall. At the same time, he had reached the peak of 1st grade martial ancestor and had the opportunity to break through the bottleneck. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? As he circulated the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and the Astral Do Mantra at the same time, countless spirit qi containing the spirit qi of heaven and earth was forcefully absorbed into his body. After absorbing a certain amount of spirit qi, Yu Haoran used the enormous amount of spirit qi to break through the bottleneck of his physical body grade. Chapter 674 Medicine King Valley, Earth Source Pavilion. Just as his physical body successfully broke through to the beginner 4th grade of Martial Grandmaster, his physical body instantly increased the absorption of the scorching spiritual energy, stimulating the Great Mystery Heart Sutra. The The Great Mystery Heart Sutra forcefully intercepted the scorching spiritual energy that was originally used to increase the physical body's grade and started to break through the bottleneck of the peak of first grade of Martial Grandmaster. Similarly, the bottleneck of the peak of first grade of Martial Grandmaster only lasted for less than 5 seconds under the impact of the huge amount of scorching spiritual energy. His cultivation successfully broke through to the beginner's second grade of Martial Grandmaster. After his cultivation and physical body broke through at the same time, Yu Haoran did not immediately stop absorbing the scorching spiritual energy. He continued to use the rich, scorching spiritual energy to consolidate his breakthrough. 2 hours later, after he had completely consolidated his cultivation and physical body, Yu Haoran looked at the sky outside and realized that it was only midnight. There was still a long time before daybreak. Therefore, he continued to use the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and Star Do arts to continue increasing his cultivation and physical body's grade. The stars and moon set, the sun rose from the east. As the red sun slowly rose, Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. Phew! After exhaling the turbid air that had accumulated in his chest after his breakthrough, Yu Haoran directly got off the bed. He stepped out of the loft and stood in the courtyard. Then, he spread out his divine thought to find the best place to refine the 5 Lives Mysterious Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir. Finally, about 19 meters away from the entrance of the courtyard, his divine thought felt the highest temperature and knew that this was the best place to refine the elixir. Walking to the best place, Yu Haoran bent his knees and sat down cross-legged. Then, he took out some elixirs and some spiritual herbs. He planned to refine some elixirs that were suitable for the Martial Grandmaster realm before refining the 5 Lives Mysterious Gate Elixir. The 7th level Rising Dragon Elixir was suitable for the soul of a Martial Grandmaster realm cultivator. It could increase the soul's growth speed, and was the most suitable elixir for a talented disciple to reach the Martial Grandmaster realm. The level 9 Yuan Yang pill could greatly increase the Dantian's origin energy. It could also assist in breaking through a small realm. Similarly, it was the most suitable pill for a monstrously talented disciple to advance to the Martial Ancestor realm. 6th level First Grade Divine Benefit Pill, one of the ancient medicinal pills. Its medicinal power was mild, and it lasted for a long time. It was very suitable for nourishing the divine soul, and it was a top-notch medicinal pill that could increase the toughness of the divine soul. After careful consideration and considering the number of spirit herbs he had, he finally chose 5 types of top-notch elixirs that targeted the soul, origin energy, and physical body. He took a deep breath and adjusted his breathing. When his breathing stabilized and his essence, energy, and spirit reached their peak, he directly mobilized the power of his Dantian to drive the fire of the pill furnace. However, after the fire in the furnace was ignited, Yu Haoran did not immediately throw in the spiritual herbs. This was because he discovered that the alchemy furnace that drove the alchemy fire had begun to absorb the earth's core flame from underground, increasing the power of the alchemy furnace's own alchemy fire. Yu Haoran, I'm going to teach you a fire-controlling secret technique. Then, use it to raise the level of the pill flame in the furnace. Thaling, who had also noticed the abnormal fire in the furnace, immediately reminded him. Raising the level of the alchemy fire can speed up the recovery of the alchemy furnace's grade. Thaling, fire-controlling secret technique. The higher the level of the alchemy fire and the higher the grade of the alchemy furnace, the more beneficial it would be for increasing the success rate of refining elixirs. Therefore, when faced with the opportunity to restore the alchemy furnace's grade, Yu Haoran immediately extinguished the idea of refining elixirs. He planned to use the fire-controlling secret technique to help the alchemy furnace recover from its previous injuries. Thaling used his divine will to condense the fire-controlling secret technique and directly transmitted it into Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness. After carefully reading the fire-controlling secret technique, Yu Haoran discovered that the fire-controlling secret technique was both a secret technique to control flames and a martial technique that could make use of flames to attack. This made him very happy. Although the fire-controlling secret technique was a little complicated, under the continuous increase of his comprehension, he could use the fire-controlling secret technique to forcibly extract the Earth's core flame from underground in half an hour to help raise the alchemy furnace's grade. Brother Yu, are you ready? Just as Yu Haoran was using the fire-controlling secret technique to raise the alchemy furnace's grade, Xiang Wenxuan's voice came from outside the Earth Source Pavilion. Brother Hao. Hearing Xiang Wenxuan's voice from outside the courtyard, Yu Haoran immediately called out to the first clone that was using the Victor to forcibly absorb the scorching spiritual energy of the Earth Source Pavilion to raise its cultivation and strength. Brother Yu. Hearing Yu Haoran's call, the first clone instantly appeared in his sea of consciousness. Brother Hao fuse. Yu Haoran ordered his first avatar as his consciousness merged with his divine sense and entered his knowledge sea. Yu Haoran instructed after briefly fusing with his body and imparting the fire control secret technique that he had comprehended to his first clone. Brother Hao, I need to deal with some people from the Medicine King Valley, so I'll leave it to you to use the fire-controlling secret technique to extract the Earth's core flame and help restore the alchemy furnace's grade. Brother Yu, don't worry, I'll do it. Hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, the first clone nodded and directly used the fire-controlling secret technique to replace Yu Haoran in the alchemy furnace's absorption of the Earth's core flame. Brother Xiang, come in. After the first clone successfully took over his work, Yu Haoran took out a portion of the spiritual herbs and gestured as if he was preparing to work. Brother Yu, I'm really sorry. I was delayed by some matters in the morning, so I'm a little late. Seeing that Yu Haoran had already activated the alchemy furnace's fire and was preparing to refine the pills, Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly explained. Brother Xiang, it's all right. I don't plan to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone pill immediately. I'll make use of the special environment of the Earth Source Pavilion to refine some pills that can raise the martial ancestor realm. Yu Haoran smiled and consoled him. Then, he saw that Xiang Wenxuan was the only one who had entered the Earth Source Pavilion. He couldn't help but frown. Brother Xiang, where's the Valley Master? Grains were an indispensable part of the refining of the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. After all, only the Valley Master and the First Elder, who had reached the Alchemy Grandmaster realm, could refine the 365 spiritual herbs. If the Valley Master didn't appear, he could only put the refining of the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill on hold. In that case, he would lack a sufficient betrothal gift and would also break his promise to Emperor Qin. Therefore, Yu Haoran hurriedly asked, Brother Yu, don't worry. The Valley Master will be here soon, Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly explained when he sensed a trace of dissatisfaction in Yu Haoran's questioning tone. That's good. Hearing that Grains hadn't failed to keep his promise, Yu Haoran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He signaled Xiang Wenxuan to wait for a while and used the opportunity of inspecting the spiritual herbs to continue observing the progress of the alchemy furnace's fire. Brother Yu, I have a presumptuous request, but I don't know if I should ask? Seeing that Yu Haoran's attention had returned to refining the pills, Xiang Wenxuan thought for a while and finally braced himself to ask. Chapter 675 Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. Apart from his good relationship with Xiang Wenxuan, it was also because he had just discovered that the pill fire in his cauldron was about to level up. The success of the pill fire meant that he could start refining the 5 types of pills that he had planned. Brother Yu, our Valley of the Medicine Masters has a total of 13 pill masters and 18 elite disciples with exceptional talent. Yu Haoran's encouragement made Xiang Wenxuan finally decide to make an embarrassing request. The Valley Master hopes that the 13 Pill Dao Grandmasters and the 18 talented disciples will be able to observe Brother's pill refining process and technique. Hearing Xiang Wenxuan's request, Yu Haoran raised his eyebrows slightly as a trace of hesitation flashed across his heart. Actually, it was not too much to ask for the opportunity to observe his pill refining process and techniques to broaden their horizons and increase their knowledge of pill refining. After all, the Earth Source Pavilion was still the territory of the Medicine Master's Valley. Furthermore, the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill required Gu Zi to use his pill refining skills to refine the perfect spirit liquid. But there were too many people watching, especially those disciples with average pill refining skills, who might disturb his pill refining process because of some shocking methods. After hearing Yu Haoran's concerns, Xiang Wenxuan smiled and promised, "Brother Yu, you can rest assured on this point. The 18 disciples with exceptional talent are all elite disciples that we have carefully selected for their mental fortitude. Not to mention the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill that you refined, even when the Valley Head and Head Elder worked together to refine the Level 4 9th Grade Purple Heart Barrier Breaking Pill, their performance was outstanding." Alright then. Since Xiang Wenxuan had already made a promise, it would be unreasonable if he didn't agree. Yu Haoran could only nod in agreement. However, when he thought about how the 31 Pill Masters from the Valley of the Medicine Masters would benefit greatly from his refining of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, he felt that he was losing out. Therefore, how could he, who had always believed in not losing out, allow the Pill Masters from the Valley of the Medicine Masters to take advantage of him? "Brother Xiang, you see, I've already made such a huge sacrifice. Shouldn't your Medicine King Valley also come up with some compensation?" Yu Haoran looked at Xiang Wenxuan with a faint smile. "Brother Yu, I understand the rules." He didn't show any dissatisfaction because Yu Haoran took the initiative to ask for compensation. Xiang Wenxian nodded to indicate that he understood and threw him a storage pouch. Scanning the storage bag with his divine sense, he found that there were 10,000 6th grade spirit stones, 100 7th grade to 5th grade spirit herbs, and 9 types of 7th grade to 5th grade spirit fruit. "Brother Xiang, thank you." Yu Haoran was satisfied that Wenxian was able to provide such a generous compensation just for being a spectator. He also thanked Wenxian. Seeing that Yu Haoran was satisfied with his compensation, Xiang Wenxian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He hurriedly indicated that he would leave the Earth Source Pavilion for the time being so that he could arrange for the Grand Masters and disciples to come and observe. In response, Yu Haoran nodded in agreement and began to use the fire of the newly upgraded cauldron to refine the 5 types of pills that he had planned from the beginning. A 7th grade 1000 ginseng grass was thrown into the cauldron and Yuan Li was used to increase the power of the cauldron's fire. In just 10 seconds, the 1000 ginseng grass was completely refined into a ball of pure spirit liquid. Seeing that the cauldron's fire was 3 times faster than before, Yu Haoran couldn't help but feel ecstatic. This was because the cauldron's fire not only increased the refining speed and purity of the pills, it also increased the success rate of refining the pills. Taking a deep breath, he forcefully suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and quickly threw in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stalks of spirit herbs. 13 minutes later, 9 ascension pills that contained a cloud of mist were stored in a pill bottle. After carefully sensing the consumption of his energy when refining the ascension pills, Yu Haoran discovered that it wasn't much. He continued to use Yuan Li to drive the fire, and began to refine the 2nd type of pill that he had planned beforehand, the 7th grade Yuanyang pill. After refining the spirit herbs, condensing the pills, splitting the pills, and finally forming the pills, 9 Yuanyang pills that emitted a trace of scorching aura were stored in a pill bottle that he had prepared beforehand. Yu Haoran, who was engrossed in refining pills, did not notice that people were continuously entering the Earth Origin Pavilion. Every single person who entered the Earth Origin Pavilion was instantly shocked and attracted by his alchemy technique. Afterwards, they quietly observed his alchemy technique. It was precisely because of the cauldron's fire that the 5 types of peak-grade pills that would have originally taken more than 3 hours to refine were completed in less than an hour. Furthermore, what made Yu Haoran even happier was that not only was every type of pill successfully refined, but when the pills were completed, there were 9 pills in total. Yu Haoran happily kept the 9 pills after the 5th type of pill was completed. Just as he was about to check if the valley head and Xiang Wenshuan had arrived, he was shocked by the crowd in front of him. "Brother Xiang, what's going on?" Yu Haoran asked in dissatisfaction as he pointed to the crowd of over 31 people in front of him. Faced with Yu Haoran's questioning, Xiang Wenshuan did not know how to explain. Originally, according to the number of people that he and the valley head had agreed on, 13 pill masters and 18 disciples with exceptional talent would be present to observe. However, as pill masters of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, they more or less had disciples and family members that they valued. Furthermore, these pill masters did not even discuss with him before bringing their disciples and family members to observe. As a result, the number of people entering the Earth Source Pavilion far exceeded the number that they had agreed on, reaching an astonishing double. Valley Head. Without Xiang Wenshuan's explanation, Yu Haoran could already guess the reason for so many people present. He also knew that with Xiang Wenshuan's status, he would not be able to handle the trouble before him. Therefore, his gaze turned directly to Gu Zi, who was standing behind Xiang Wenshuan and had no intention of stepping forward to solve the problem. "Grandmaster Yu, the disciples that were added at the last minute are all genius disciples who are obsessed with the way of the pill. Faced with their request to observe the way of the pill, I am too embarrassed to refuse." Seeing Yu Haoran's gaze turn to him, Gu Zi could only stand in front of Xiang Wenshuan and explain helplessly. Yu Haoran sighed in disappointment at Valley Head Gu Zi's inaction. He stood up and put away the pill furnace in front of him, then turned and walked towards the loft. "Grandmaster Yu, what is the meaning of this?" Seeing Yu Haoran directly put away the pill furnace and then silently return to the attic, an alchemy grandmaster with a head of snow-white hair, who was even older than a grain, questioned with a displeased expression. Chapter 676. Valley of the Medicine Masters, in the Earth Source Pavilion. I am Xiaoyingjie, a peak alchemy grandmaster. I am the 7th elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The white-haired elder replied arrogantly. "Grandmaster Xia, since you are also a peak alchemy grandmaster, you must know that alchemists need an absolutely quiet environment when refining high-grade pills. They cannot be disturbed in the slightest." At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at the 5 disciples standing beside him who were only martial masters and martial grandmasters. "Do you dare to refine pills with someone with such a low mental state and a tyrannical aura by your side? Grandmaster Yu, don't slander me. How can my disciple's mental fortitude be low? How can his Yuan Qi contain such a tyrannical aura?" Faced with Yu Haoran's questioning, Xiaoyingjie's face instantly darkened. "Grandmaster Xia, you are also a peak 9th grade martial emperor. You can sense everything with your divine sense. Don't tell me you don't know the real situation of your disciple." Although Xiaoyingjie was deliberately asking for trouble, considering his position in the Valley of the Medicine Masters and his special relationship with the head elder, Yu Haoran could only patiently explain in order to avoid affecting the Master Apothecary's legacy. "Grandmaster Yu, I have already used my divine sense to check. I did not find anything unusual about my disciple." Xiaoyingjie clearly did not use his divine sense to check, but he acted as if he would do whatever he said to warn Yu Haoran. This was the territory of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. As a foreign alchemy grandmaster, what he needed to do was to be obedient. In response, Yu Haoran could not help but laugh coldly. Then, without a word, he turned and continued to walk towards the loft. What do you mean by this? Seeing Yu Haoran ignore him, Xia Yingjie roared angrily. You with the surname Xia, don't be so shameless. There is a limit to my patience. Yu Haoran, who was also enraged, threatened Xia Yingjie with a murderous aura. Do you believe that I would dare to destroy you right now? Ouch! In the face of Yu Haoran's threat, Xia Yingjie couldn't help but let out a strange cry, and then mocked with a face full of contempt. I've seen countless arrogant people in my life, but it's the first time I've seen someone as arrogant as you. At this point, Xia Yingjie suddenly left the crowd and stood 3 meters away from Yu Haoran before speaking in a provocative tone. I'm standing right here. Let's see if you have the guts to make a move. Brother Yu, don't be rash. After seeing the murderous aura that flashed in Yu Haoran's eyes, when Xian panicked and reminded Yu Haoran when he was in the Qingya Pavilion of the Qingyuan Guild Hall in Xianyang City, ignoring the threat of the forces behind the third prince Qin Tianyi and Meng Xing. Unfortunately, Yu Haoran, who was completely enraged, would not choose to stop just because of Xiang Wenxuan's reminder. Black Bear, destroy him for me! Yu Haoran roared at Black Bear, who was crawling in the corner and was also using the Scorching Spirit Qi to increase his strength. Black Bear, who acted according to Yu Haoran's orders and ignored any threats, immediately raised his huge bear paw after hearing Yu Haoran's order. Under the incredulous gazes of the crowd and Xia Yingjie, he directly smashed Xia Yingjie into a meat patty. Boom! As Black Bear retracted his bear paw, the crowd's gazes turned pale when they saw the pile of meat patty on the ground. How could you do that? Valley Master Gu Zi asked in disbelief as he pointed at Yu Haoran. Valley Master, if you go out and ask about Yu Haoran's style of doing things and his lawless character, then when faced with Xia Yingjie's provocation just now, what you needed to do was not to hide behind, but to stop him. After killing Xia Yingjie, Yu Haoran once again returned to his lawless character in the 100 Qi Gate and Xianyang City. Even in the face of Gu Zi's questioning, he was not afraid at all as he pointed out tyrannically. So, for the death of Elder Xia Yingjie, you have to bear at least half of the responsibility. Ever since he took over the position of Valley Master, with the special status of the Valley of the Medicine Masters in the Tianxian continent and his own strong alchemy skills, no one had ever dared to point out or slander him. Not even the sect masters of the top sects, not even the palace master of the Yushu Temple. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's tyrannical accusations and slander, Gu Zi could not accept it at all, but he also could not refute it. Brother Yu, quickly calm down, I will persuade the Valley Master. Seeing Yu Haoran looking at the Valley Master with an unfriendly gaze after killing Xia Yingjie, Xiang Wenxuan knew that the actions of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had truly enraged Yu Haoran. Thinking of Yu Haoran's lawless character, ignoring all threats, and thinking of his vengeful style, Xiang Wenxuan was worried that Yu Haoran might really disregard everything and let the Black Bear kill the Valley Master, so he hurried forward to persuade him. Brother Xiang, my emotions are too agitated today. It is not good for refining the 5 Lives Black Pill sect and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir, so we will talk about refining the elixir another day. Seeing the pleading look in Xiang Wenxuan's eyes, Yu Haoran thought of the affection he had for him and finally sighed, calming the murderous intent in his heart, and said in disappointment. Then, he turned and walked into the loft. Too much, too much. Seeing Yu Haoran turn and walk into the loft, Gu Zi, who seemed to have suffered a great humiliation, couldn't help but roar and criticize him. Valley Master, can I have a word with you? Seeing the Valley Master roaring like thunder, Xiang Wenxuan also felt a headache. But in order to ease the grudge between Yu Haoran and the Valley of the Medicine Masters, in order to use the 5 Lives Black Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir to increase the strength and reputation of the Medicine Master's Valley, he could only try his best to appease the Valley Master's anger. Valley Master, to be honest, the responsibility for today's conflict does not lie with the Grandmasters. Bringing Gu Zi to a room on the first floor of the loft, Xiang Wenxuan said solemnly after closing the door. Wenxuan, even if the fault for today's conflict lies with Elder Xia, that you person can't just kill people as he pleases. Seeing Xiang Wenxuan begin to shirk responsibility for Yu Haoran, Gu Zi criticized him with dissatisfaction. What's more, this is the Medicine Master's Valley, our territory, not the 100 Qi Gate where Yu Haoran can do whatever he wants. Valley Master, in fact, in the eyes of my brother, there is no sense of territory at all, because his character is like this. Chapter 677 Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. Wen Xian, how could someone with Yu Haoran's personality be able to survive until now? After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's detailed explanation, Gu Zi's anger gradually subsided as he exclaimed in disbelief. Perhaps it's because his luck is heaven-defying. Faced with the Valley Master's disbelief, Xiang Wenxuan also didn't know how to explain. In the end, he could only attribute it to luck. Then, Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly returned to the topic at hand and asked, Valley Master, what do you think about Brother Yu's matter? Wen Xian, Xiaoyingjie is not only a peak alchemy grandmaster, but also a direct elder of our Valley of the Medicine Masters. Although the responsibility for the conflict lies with Xiaoyingjie, if we choose to keep the peace and let Yu Haoran off, what will the other elders in the valley think of us? Faced with Xiang Wenxuan's interrogation, Gu Zi said with a headache. Moreover, I'm worried that it will be difficult to explain to the Great Elder. After all, Xiaoyingjie is also the Great Elder's most trusted right-hand man. Valley Master, if we can't settle the grudge between Yu Haoran and the Valley of the Medicine Masters, not only will we not be able to obtain the refining methods of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill from Yu Haoran, but we will also offend a demon with a bright future. For our Valley of the Medicine Masters, I'm afraid this will be a disaster with no benefits. Seeing that the Valley Master was unwilling to let Yu Haoran off, Xiang Wenxuan couldn't help but remind him. Wen Xian, I remember that Elder Zhao seems to be able to communicate with the people on the other side. Do you think we can use the secret technique that they have to completely extract Yu Haoran's soul and obtain his refining methods and experience? After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's reminder, Gu Zi thought for a while with a heavy expression, then finally suggested with a fierce look. Valley Master, how can you have such an idea? Capture him alive and use the secret technique of the Demon Tao to extract Yu Haoran's soul and obtain the refining methods of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. After hearing the Valley Master's cruel suggestion, Xiang Wenxuan felt terrified and looked at Gu Zi in disbelief. It was as if he didn't recognize this kind old man that he had always respected. Wen Xian, as the saying goes, a man with a small heart is not a gentleman, and a man without poison is not a man. In the face of the frightened Xiang Wenxuan, Gu Zi sneered without the slightest care, and said with a ferocious expression, Since we can no longer coexist peacefully with Yu Haoran, why don't we strike first to gain the upper hand and avoid Yu Haoran's revenge in the future? Valley Master, I disagree. Xiang Wenxuan shook his head vigorously as he strongly objected. Brother Yu, you came to our Valley of the Medicine Masters alone because I, Xiang Wenxuan, invited you, and because you believe in my character. I cannot go back on my word. What's more, let's not talk about whether we can use the secret technique to preserve the integrity of Brother Yu's soul. If the news leaks out, I'm afraid there will be no place for our Valley of the Medicine Masters in the Tianxian continent. Moreover, Brother Yu is not only the deputy sect master of the 100 Qi Gate, but also the prince consort of the Emperor Qin's kingdom. He is highly regarded by the Emperor Qin and is not someone we can touch. Before Xiang Wenxuan could finish his strong objection, he suddenly felt a pain in the back of his chest. Then, His soul was violently attacked and he fell into a trance. "Valley Master, you?" Using the last trace of consciousness before his soul fainted, Xiang Wenxuan pointed at Gu Zi and wanted to ask something in disbelief. But in the end, he didn't say a word and fell directly to the ground. "Wenxuan, your character is too kind and is not suitable for this environment of mutual deception. So, I can only do my best to raise the strength and reputation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters to the point where no one dares to provoke us. Only in this way can kind people like you be able to live without worries." Looking at Xiang Wenxuan, who had fainted on the ground, Gu Zi sighed with a complicated expression. Then, he shouted outside the door. "Elder Zhaoqing, come in for a moment." "Valley Master, this is..." After entering the room and seeing the unconscious Xiang Wenxuan on the ground, Zhao Qing immediately asked cautiously. "Some things are not suitable for Wenxuan to interfere in, so I let him rest for a while." After casually explaining the reason for Xiang Wenxuan's unconsciousness, Gu Zi looked directly into Zhao Qing's eyes and asked, "How long does it take to contact the people on the other side?" "Valley Master, what do you mean by people on the other side? I don't know what you are talking about." Gu Zi's direct questioning caused Zhao Qing to be taken aback. He continued to maintain a high level of vigilance as he pretended to be confused and asked, "Zhao Qing, I'll tell you the truth. The Valley of the Medicine Master's hidden methods are far beyond your imagination. I know everything that you have done in secret, including using the secret techniques that they taught you to devour and integrate other people's talent." Gu Zi coldly glanced at Zhao Qing as he threatened with a cold expression on his face. "So, you'd better be obedient. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you to accompany Xiaoyingjie right now." "All right." The information that Gu Zi had just revealed made Zhao Qing feel a chill run down his spine. At the same time, he wanted to turn and flee the Earth Source Pavilion and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. He had never imagined that the Valley Master, who usually seemed to be obsessed with the Tao of pills and stood aloof from worldly affairs, was actually a person who hid even deeper than him and was even more scheming than him. However, when he saw Gu Zi's cold expression and thought about how his cultivation was far above his own and how he controlled the entire Valley of the Medicine Master's array, he knew that he had no hope of escaping. In the end, he could only confess helplessly, "Valley Master, if we use a large amount of high-quality spirit stones, we should be able to contact the people on the other side within 5 hours. In that case, follow me back to the Immortal Fate Pavilion. I have something to discuss with the people on the other side." "Valley Master, what happened to Elder Xiang?" Seeing Gu Zi walk to the door, Zhao Qing pointed at the unconscious Xiang Wenxuan and asked, "The immortal spirit powder refined from the black dragon's saliva. Let him rest here for a few days." Gu Zi turned his head to look at Xiang Wenxuan, who was lying on the ground. In order not to affect the upcoming plan, he could only harden his heart and let him stay in the room for the time being. "Elder Ning, please go upstairs and inform Grandmaster Yu that the Earth Source Pavilion needs to be closed for a period of time due to some special reasons. Please let him stay in the Autumn Water Pavilion for a while." After leaving the room, Gu Zi did not explain how he would deal with the outcome of Yu Haoran killing Xiaoyingjie. He also did not explain why Xiang Wenxuan, who had entered the room together with him, did not appear at the same time. He only instructed one of the Pill Dao sect's elders in the courtyard. "Yes." Elder Ning answered and walked into the attic. Chapter 678. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. After ordering the Black Bear to kill Xiaoyingjie, Yu Haoran returned to his room in the pavilion and sat cross-legged on the bed. He breathed in and out at a regular rate to adjust his fluctuating emotions caused by the boundless killing intent. He then waited for Gu Zi and Xiang Wenxuan to come up and apologize. His reckless killing of Xiaoyingjie seemed to be a moment of impulse, but it was actually the result of careful consideration. Yu Haoran knew very well that the refining method of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill was a fatal temptation to Gu Zi, who was obsessed with the way of pills. Under the influence of this fatal temptation, not only would he not blame himself for his impulse to kill Xiaoyingjie, he would even actively shirk responsibility for himself. His goal was to continue refining pills, so that he could use the process of assisting in the refining process to learn and comprehend, and eventually master the refining method of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Because mastering this refining method would not only increase the reputation and strength of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it would also be of unimaginable help in increasing his own cultivation in the way of pills. However, the development of the situation was beyond Yu Haoran's expectations. After that, not only did Gu Zi and Xiang Wenxuan not come to apologize, but he also received a warning from Thaling in his Sea of Consciousness. Perhaps it was because Gu Zi was too confident in the formation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters that could block divine sense. Or perhaps it was because Yu Haoran's martial ancestor level of cultivation was too low, causing him to subconsciously lower his guard. Therefore, when he revealed his thoughts to Xiang Wenxuan, he did not expect that someone would be able to break through the protection of the formation and eavesdrop on his conversation with Xiang Wenxuan and Zhao Qing. This also allowed Thaling to understand his sinister plan in time. After hearing Thaling describe in detail everything that happened in the room downstairs, the shock on Yu Haoran's face was gradually replaced by seriousness. Initially, the reason why he had agreed to let Gu Zi assist in refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill was completely based on his understanding of him in his previous life. He knew that he was a pill refiner who was completely obsessed with the way of pills and had no intention of fighting for power, nor was he too ambitious. Otherwise, how could nearly 80% of the power in the Valley of the Medicine Masters be in the hands of the head elder alone? However, after listening to Thaling's explanation, Yu Haoran realized that his observation and understanding of human nature were too blind and overconfident. Thaling, thank you. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the shock in his heart, Yu Haoran first thanked the Thaling in his Sea of Consciousness. If not for the fact that Thaling had been trying to find a way to break through the Valley of the Medicine Master's mountain protective array and had heard of Gu Wen's sinister plan in time, the unprepared him might have fallen into Gu Zi's hands. Is there a need to be so polite between us? Dissatisfied with Yu Haoran's overly polite behavior, Thaling criticized him and quickly asked him how to deal with Gu Zi's insidious plan. Yu Haoran, what do you plan to do? Since you were the one who was heartless first, then don't blame me for being unjust. Yu Haoran sneered after thinking for a moment. Then, he called out to the 2 doppelgangers and the victor. Brother Hao, Brother Ran, quickly show yourself, I need your help. Brother Yu. Brother Yu. After leaving the victor, the 2 doppelgangers appeared in the room and nodded to Yu Haoran. Then, the first doppelganger asked, Brother Yu, what do you need us to do? Brother Hao, Brother Ran, in a while we. Motioning the 2 doppelgangers to come forward, Yu Haoran explained his plan. Okay, we'll act according to Brother Yu's plan. Turning his head to look at the second doppelganger, the first doppelganger readily agreed. The second doppelganger just nodded and did not say much. Thaling, please. After getting the agreement of the 2 doppelgangers, Yu Haoran ordered Thaling in the Sea of Consciousness. Thaling, who also heard Yu Haoran's plan just now, couldn't bear to persuade him. Yu Haoran, aren't you being a bit too ruthless? Thaling, just like what Gu Zi said just now, a man with a small temper is not a gentleman, and a man without poison is not a great man. Yu Haoran said with a murderous look. Since Gu Zi dares to risk universal condemnation and privately contact the Demon Dao experts to extract my spiritual body, then don't blame me, Yu Haoran, for cutting off the roots of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and destroying the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Sigh. In this regard, Thaling could only sigh and did not continue to persuade him. Then, he used his divine thought to set up a concealment array to temporarily hide the tracks of Yuhauran and the first doppelganger. Just after Thaling used the array to hide the tracks of Yuhauran and the first doppelganger, there was a knock on the door outside the room. The second doppelganger coldly opened the door and looked at Elder Ning, who was standing outside. "Grandmaster Yu, I am very sorry. Due to some special reasons, the Earth Source Pavilion has to be temporarily closed for a period of time. The Valley Master hopes that you can stay at the Autumn Water Pavilion for a period of time," Elder Ning said apologetically when he saw Yuhauran standing at the door. "Lead the way," the second doppelganger coldly ordered without any change in his expression. "Please." Elder Ning gestured and led the second doppelganger down the stairs. The second doppelganger followed Elder Ning out of the Earth Source Pavilion after calling out to Black Bear, who was lying in the corner. At the same time, Yuhauran, who was hidden in the room, gestured to Thaling to remove the concealment array and instructed the first doppelganger. "Brother Hao, although the Master Apothecary's inheritance is very important, your safety is more important. If the timing is not right, you can temporarily retreat and we will think of a way in the future." "Brother Yu, don't worry. I know what to do." The first doppelganger nodded and swallowed the elixir that Yuhauran had just given him. At the same time, Thaling also used a secret technique to conceal his aura on the first doppelganger. When everything was ready, the first doppelganger nodded at Yuhauran and flew out of the Earth Source Pavilion through the window of the room, heading straight for the true core of the Medicine Master Valley. After the first doppelganger left the Earth Source Pavilion, Yuhauran followed the stairs to the room on the first floor where Xiang Wenxuan had fainted. When he saw Xiang Wenxuan lying on the ground, a trace of gratitude and pity flashed across Yuhauran's eyes. Xiang Wenxuan's character had truly won Yuhauran's respect for Yuhauran by not fearing the Valley Master's threats and arguing on his behalf. Bending down, Yuhauran cut Xiang Wenxuan's finger and forced out a drop of blood. Through the smell and color of the blood, Yuhauran finally determined the cause of Xiang Wenxuan's unconsciousness. "Thaling, I really did not expect Guzi to have the dragon saliva of the rank 4 Black Dragon King." Yuhauran sighed with envy as he flicked the blood off his finger. "Yuhauran, there is no need to be envious." Thaling consoled Yuhauran when he saw that Yuhauran was envious of Xiang Wenxuan's possession of the dragon saliva of the Black Dragon King. "When your cultivation has broken through to the martial Emperor realm, I will bring you to a place, a cave of the Black Dragon King that is about to evolve into a true dragon." Chapter 679. Medicine King Valley, Earth Origin Pavilion. Actually, Yuhauran's envy and jealousy towards Guzi was not because of the high-grade dragon saliva. It was because the dragon saliva produced by the Black King Dragon could increase the grade and power of the Black Saliva Ball, allowing it to have the power to threaten martial sages. "Brother Xiang, it's all my fault for being impulsive and causing you to suffer such a calamity." Yuhauran apologized as he wiped off the blood on Xiang Wenxuan's fingers. He then took out the pill furnace and 16 poisonous elixirs from his storage ring. Using Yuan Li to drive the fire in the pill furnace, he used his rich experience in refining poison pills from his previous life and the upgraded pill furnace fire to create 9 antidote pills in less than 10 minutes. Keeping the pill furnace, he took out an antidote pill and fed it to Xiang Wenxuan. Yuhauran stood up and walked to the window in the room, carefully thinking about his next plan as he waited for Xiang Wenxuan to wake up. It did not take long, only about 3 minutes. Xiang Wenxuan slowly regained consciousness as he spat out a mouthful of smelly blood. Thinking of the Valley Head's sinister plan to use a demonic technique to extract Yuhauran's soul, Xiang Wenxuan wanted to hurry up and persuade him. However, a wave of weakness made him unable to sit up, let alone stand up. "Brother Xiang, you were poisoned by the Black King Dragon's saliva just now," causing your soul to be extremely weak. You will need a period of rest to recover. Hearing the commotion behind him, Yu Haoran hurriedly turned around and appeared beside Xiang Wenxuan in a flash, comforting him. Brother Yu, hurry up and leave the Medicine King Valley. The valley head plans to make a move on you. Seeing Yu Haoran, Xiang Wenxuan instinctively warned him to escape. Brother Xiang, don't worry. I already know of Gu Zi's plan and have a way to deal with it. Retrieving a few elixirs to recover one's soul, he helped Xiang Wenxuan consume them as he continued to comfort him. Brother Yu, I'm sorry. Seeing that Yu Haoran already knew all the secrets, Xiang Wenxuan apologized to Yu Haoran with a pained expression. Brother Xiang, the plan to deal with them is Gu Zi's own idea. It has nothing to do with you. You don't need to apologize to me. Yu Haoran reached out and patted him on the shoulder, indicating that he should quickly recover his divine soul with the help of the medicinal pills. No! Xiang Wenxuan shook his head with all his might and blamed himself. If I hadn't invited you, you wouldn't have come to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. If you had not come to Medicine King's Valley, you would not have aroused the jealousy of the Valley Lord, and would not have risked universal condemnation to contact the demonic path giants, intending to use the demonic path secret arts to extract your spiritual body in order to obtain the alchemy methods to refine the 5 lives profound gate pill and the ice heart jade bone pill. Old brother Xiang, what do you think about the Valley Master and the Valley of the Medicine Masters? In response to Xiang Wenxuan's self-blame, Yu Haoran did not continue to persuade him, because he knew that the kind-hearted Xiang Wenxuan was too obsessed with his own mistake. If he wanted to resolve the self-blame in his heart, he would probably have to think it through himself. Therefore, he asked about his true intention of saving Xiang Wenxuan, even if it meant delaying the execution of the plan for some time. How should I put it? While listening to Yu Haoran's reminder and refining the medicinal pills he had just swallowed to recover his weakened divine soul, Xiang Wenxuan tested his inner feelings about Gu Zi and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Sadness, disappointment, frustration, helplessness, sadness, despair. He said several of his inner feelings in a row, and finally, they all converged into one emotion. Brother Yu, towards the Valley Master and the Valley of the Medicine Masters, the greatest feeling I have in my heart right now is despair. After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's truest feelings, Yu Haoran was overjoyed and quickly asked, since it's despair, what do you plan to do in the future? I plan to leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become an unrestrained independent alchemist, Xiang Wenxuan replied with a wry smile. Xiang Wenxuan was already used to relying on the protection of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and had no confidence in his ability to adapt to the life of an independent alchemist. Old brother Xiang, I, Yu Haoran, respect and admire your character and your alchemy skills. He would rather become an independent alchemist than continue to stay in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's next plans, Yu Haoran was overjoyed and hurriedly invited him. If old brother Xiang thinks highly of me, Yu Haoran, why don't you stay in my Qingyun Peak? In the future, if he wanted to develop Qingyun Peak to be on par with the 7 great powers, or even the reclusive family clans, he had to develop it in an all-round way. And an alchemist, and an array master were indispensable factors. Although using the I Chi turning 3 pure ones technique allowed Qingyun Peak to have alchemists and array masters, Yu Haoran knew very well that his future path of cultivation would be filled with bloodshed. It was impossible for his 2 clones to stay in Qingyun Peak for long. Therefore, Qingyun Peak needed alchemists, and array masters who could really take charge. And Xiang Wenxuan. Not only was his talent in alchemy not inferior to his own, but he also had a special divine eye. In the future, his achievements in alchemy were limitless. He was definitely the most suitable alchemist for Qingyun Peak. This. In the face of Yu Haoran's invitation, Xiang Wenxuan hesitated. Joining Qingyun Peak, becoming an alchemist, and being able to exchange alchemy skills with Yu Haoran at any time was a good choice. But Yu Haoran, who already knew the Valley Master's sinister intentions, and with his vengeful personality, he would definitely fight to the death with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. If he became a member of Qingyun Peak now, in the face of the bloody battle between the Valley of the Medicine Masters and Yu Haoran, what choice would he make? If he supported the Valley of the Medicine Masters, he would be letting down Yu Haoran's life-saving grace. If he supported Yu Haoran, he would be letting down the Valley of the Medicine Masters for nurturing him and protecting him. After thinking about it, Xiang Wenxuan finally shook his head and refused. Brother Yu, thank you for your kindness, but I don't want to join any faction for the time being. I just want to be an unrestrained, independent cultivator. Yu Haoran didn't care about this. He was very clear about Xiang Wenxuan's concerns and was confident that he would choose Qingyun Peak in the end and become a strong cornerstone of Qingyun Peak in the future. He took out a blank jade slip from his storage ring and left a message on it. Brother Xiang, if you want to know the secret of your left eye, come to Qingyun Peak to find me. Then, he used the arrays that his second doppelganger had learned during this period to set up a sealing array. Then, he handed the jade slip to Xiang Wenxuan and warned him. Brother Xiang, this jade slip contains a secret about your own body. I used an array to temporarily seal the contents of the jade slip. Chapter 680. Medicine Master Valley, Earth Origin Pavilion. Reaching out to receive the jade slip from Yu Haoran, Xiang Wenxuan obeyed Yu Haoran's instructions and didn't use his divine sense to examine it, instead directly storing it in his storage ring. Old Brother Xiang, the Black Flood Dragon King's dragon saliva is quite harmful to the divine soul. You will need pills to recover your weakened divine soul, and you will also need to borrow the Earth Origin Pavilion's scorching spiritual energy to eliminate the unique yin qi of the dragon saliva. Seeing Xiang Wenxuan keep the jade scroll, Yu Haoran knew that he had accomplished his mission of recruiting Medicine Master Valley. After all, time was of the essence. He had to complete his plan to destroy Medicine Master Valley before Guzi exchanged for the demon's secret techniques from the demon path. Only then would he be able to dispel the hatred in his heart and safely leave Medicine Master Valley. Hence, after instructing Xiang Wenxuan to continue recuperating in the Earth Origin Pavilion, he cupped his fists and bid farewell. Brother Yu, after I revealed my exceptional talent in the Tao of Pills, you received Valley Master Guzi's high regard and have been by his side for almost 50 years. You can be considered his trusted aide. Although Yu Haoran did not explicitly state what he was going to do next, Xiang Wenxuan, who understood his vengeful nature, knew that he would definitely be unwilling to leave after leaving the Earth Source Pavilion. He would definitely take revenge on the Medicine King Valley. However, considering the true strength of Medicine Master Valley, Xiang Wenxuan could not help but remind him. Brother Yu, the Valley of the Medicine Masters is not as simple as you think. There are dangers lurking in the dark. Even a martial honor would not dare to set foot in it. Xiang Wenxuan looked up at Yu Haoran and sincerely pleaded. Hence, Brother Yu, take a step back and you will see the world. Bear with it for a while and calm down. After leaving the Earth Origin Pavilion, you had best put aside any thoughts of revenge and quickly leave Medicine Master Valley. In the future, when you have the power to control the situation in Tianxian continent, you can decide whether to take revenge on Medicine Master Valley. Brother Xiang, I understand. You can focus on recuperating. Yu Haoran smiled and nodded before turning to leave the room and the Earth Origin Pavilion. Yu Haoran snorted disdainfully at Xiang Wenxuan's persuasion. Xiang Wenxuan's persuasion was just a matter of time. In his previous life, no matter how difficult and dangerous the situation was, he would do everything he could to take revenge, even if he had to pay the price of being seriously injured. Now that he had the means to destroy the foundations of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, as well as a way to escape from the Valley of the Medicine Masters in time, how could he not take revenge immediately? After leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Yuhauran also used an elixir to change his appearance and aura, then headed straight for a medicinal field north of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was not very strong as a whole, but it had a reputation that did not lose out to the 7 top sections. In addition to its superb alchemy techniques, it also had 3 treasures that determined the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The first treasure was a flawless lower-grade Emperor Realm cauldron. Numerous times, the Valley Master and Great Elder of the Medicine King Valley had worked together with all the Grandmasters of the Pill Dao in the Valley. They had used the lower Emperor Realm pill furnaces to make the pills. However, with his current strength and methods, he could not get close to the Emperor's aura emanating from the lower Emperor Realm cauldron, let alone steal or destroy it. Therefore, the first treasure that could affect the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was not in his plan this time. The second treasure was the Master Apothecary's inheritance that had attracted countless talented alchemists to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. For the second treasure, although he had already sent out his first clone that specialized in alchemy and poison, he did not know whether he would be able to obtain the Master Apothecary's inheritance in the end. To be honest, Yuhauran did not have much confidence in himself. After all, the Master Apothecary's inheritance had existed for tens of thousands of years, and there was no lack of geniuses with talent in alchemy who had tried to obtain it. But until now, the Master Apothecary's inheritance was still in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, which was enough to prove the strictness and harshness of the Master Apothecary's inheritance. The third treasure was the upper-level third-level spiritual vein hidden under the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The upper-level third-level spiritual vein was the true foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. It was the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters to establish itself in the Tianxian continent, and also the real target of his plan this time. A upper-level third-level spiritual vein with its own consciousness was basically equivalent to a peerless cultivator in the advanced stage of the martial honor realm. At the same time, the spiritual vein had a unique physique. Even a peerless cultivator at the peak of the 9th grade martial honor realm would not dare to provoke it. However, even a peerless 9th grade martial honor would not dare to provoke a upper-level third-level spiritual vein. Not only did Yuhauran dare to provoke it, but he also had a way to make it unable to retaliate. In his previous life, he had secretly tested this method on a upper-level third-level spiritual vein in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This was also the reason why he was so confident in destroying the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The 10,000 Mu herb field was a fertile field that the ancestors of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had specially opened up to cultivate the best spiritual herbs. It was also one of the important methods to attract countless talented alchemists to join the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become alchemists of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Because the 10,000 Mu herb field was open to all alchemists in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, other than a few dozen stalks of the best spiritual herbs that were sealed by a spell, the rest of the spiritual herbs could be picked as they wished. Even if it was a 5th grade 9th grade spiritual herb. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was so generous to the alchemists of the Valley. Firstly, they hoped to use large amounts of spiritual herbs to refine their skills and increase their alchemy experience and cultivation. Secondly, because the location of the 10,000 Mu herb field was right on the spine of the upper-level third-level spiritual vein, they could use the dense spiritual qi at any time to cultivate the spiritual herbs that had been picked in a very short period of time. Based on his memories of living in the Valley of the Medicine Masters in his previous life, Yuhauran quickly arrived in front of the 10,000 Mu herb field. Actually, the ancestors of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had opened up 10,000 Mu herb field at the beginning, but as the spiritual vein continued to level up and the descendants continued to open up and maintain it. At this time, The so-called 10,000 mu herb field was actually more than 100,000 mu herb field. Looking at the tens of thousands of different types of spiritual herbs planted in front of him, Yu Haoran, who had used pills to change his appearance, took a deep breath. Then, he stepped into the herb field. However, after entering the herb field, he did not immediately pick the spiritual herbs that he had planned. Instead, he stood in the herb field and waited for a while. He waited until Thaling's notification that he was ready to begin before he began to pick the spiritual herbs that he had planned. Although the upper-level third-level spiritual vein had its own consciousness and its true strength was that of an advanced martial honor, Thaling's soul had recovered to the peak of the martial honor level and possessed a spiritual sense that was not inferior to, or even slightly superior to, the upper-level third-level spiritual vein. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.